And don't worry, Jim, there's yet another update in the story that keeps on giving. Bill's girl, Jordon Hudson. It's all next on the first hour of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. President Trump is in Saudi Arabia, where he has signed several agreements with Saudi leaders. Trump says these will add up to a $600 billion investment in the U.S. The majority are more than $140 billion in arms deals involving more than a dozen U.S. firms, and billions more will involve technology investments from Google, Oracle, and others. The president is expected to sign additional agreements during the rest of his Mideast trip in Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. But NPR's Domenico Montanaro says Trump will not be visiting a longtime U.S. ally.
You know, it's pretty surprising, frankly, that he's not going to Israel while he's there, considering the war with Gaza with Israel that Trump has been trying to settle. But it does reflect some of the strain between Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for continuing to bomb Gaza.
NPR's Domenico Montanaro reporting. Chinese leader Xi Jinping has met leaders from several South American nations. He has urged them to stay united in the face of uncertainty due to American tariffs. NPR's Emily Fang reports this comes a day after the U.S. and China announced a 90-day pause on high tariffs on each other's products.
China has been deepening its economic ties with Latin America in the midst of a trade war with the U.S. Xi Jinping met with South American leaders while on a trip to Russia this month and also during an annual meeting with Latin American ministers in Beijing this week. At the meeting, China extended another $10 billion in credit to Latin American countries, and Colombia, historically a close partner of the U.S. and South America, also signed up to join China's Belt and Road Initiative, through which Beijing has financed hundreds of billions of dollars worth of infrastructure projects in sectors like energy and railroads. Emily Fang, NPR News.
Social media influencer Kim Kardashian appeared in a French courtroom today. She testified against 10 men who are accused of robbing her at gunpoint nearly a decade ago in her Paris hotel suite. As NPR's Rebecca Rossman reports, Kardashian told the court the incident left her fearing for her life.
In emotional testimony, Kardashian told the closed courtroom she had always loved Paris, saying she used to walk the streets at night, window shop, and drink hot chocolate, feeling safe. But when I came for Fashion Week in 2016, she said, everything changed. She described begging for her life as the robbers tied her up and held her at gunpoint, pleading that she was a mother. The thieves, dubbed the grandpa robbers by French media due to their age, mostly 60s and 70s, posed as police officers to gain access. They stole more than $6 million in jewelry, including the engagement ring given to Kardashian by then-husband Kanye West. Kardashian was physically unharmed, but says she still suffers emotional trauma. Rebecca Rossman, NPR News, Paris.
On Wall Street, the Dow is down more than 160 points. This is NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The City Hall in Worcester is closing at 5 p.m. today, while 2 city meetings are held by way of Zoom. The Telegram and Gazette reports that the closure is due to public safety concerns, and while city officials aren't saying what prompted the safety concerns, they do know of a planned protest happening prior to the city council meeting at 6:30. That follows days of protests in Worcester in response to ICE actions and arrests that took place on May 8th. And I'm waiting for my screen to change. A number of recent arrests by federal immigration authorities in the Boston suburbs have had some members of the public and their elected leaders concerned. State Senator Jamie Eldridge says he's been speaking with constituents. Says ICE agents were seen in his own hometown of Acton this past weekend.
It does seem to be hitting Metro West now because, well, certainly, unfortunately, already been pretty consistent activity and arrests in Marlborough with a large immigrant communities, but also ICE was in the town of Sudbury.
A father and 2 sons were pulled over and detained in Acton on Saturday, and Eldridge says several immigration arrests were also made in Sudbury. Federal officials do not immediately respond for request for comment. Red Sox Tigers, Game 2 of their series in Detroit tonight, 6:40 start. Last night's Sox loss was just nothing short of embarrassing. And speaking of losses, the Celtics are limping home as they get ready for a must-win Game 5 against the Knicks tomorrow night at the TD Garden. Gang Green down 3-1. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the estate of Joan B. Kroc, whose bequest serves as an enduring investment in the future of public radio and seeks to help NPR be the model for high-quality journalism in the 21st century. This is NPR.
Eastern Browdy, I am Marjorie Yeek, and you're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. Thank you. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. A couple of programming notes here, Jim. The Attorney General will be here with us on May 21st from 1 to 2. That's, of course, Andrea Campbell. Michelle Wu, the Mayor of Boston, will be here on May 28th, also from noon to 1. Josh Kraft, who's running to be the next mayor of Boston, is going to join us here at the library at noon today. And at 12:30, Keith Lockhart, the conductor of the Boston Pop. 30 years. Wow.
That is incredible.
Is going to join us as well. And Jim's going to badger him about who's performing on July 4th on the Esplanade. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
He screws us every year, doesn't he?
He
promises and then
he keeps
nothing.
Quiet. He keeps it a secret, Jim. And that's the way people like it.
So in Worcester last week, you just heard about the city council meeting tonight. ICE agents swarmed by community members attempting to stop their efforts to detain an immigrant mother and then later arrest, this is the police in this case, a 16-year-old on the scene. Local police were called in for crowd management, ultimately helping to facilitate the arrest, I would argue. About 1,000 Worcester residents gathered for an impromptu protest over the weekend. City Hall was closed later today, as we said, in anticipation of more protests, citing the terror imparted on communities by federal agents. The woman taken by ICE agents was charged with domestic assault, but the protests are less about her individually than a broad federal policy of masked, often unidentified agents whisking people off the streets, something local groups are saying is happening more and more frequently across Massachusetts. In Waltham, did you read where they left a 12-year-old boy by himself?
Yeah.
This is in Waltham, New Bedford and beyond. Community activists liken their actions to secret police. So the question, well, there are actually a bunch of questions for you, is how should we all be responding to these ICE raids right in our state as Massachusetts seemingly gets targeted by federal agents, maybe for its progressive immigration policies? And how would you like to see our leaders, state leaders, respond to these behaviors, not just by ICE agents, but by local police forces? At 877-301-8897. We asked Governor Healy about what happened in Worcester on Friday when she was with us at the library. I believe that was just the day after this Worcester incident, which I think was Thursday. Here's a small part of what the governor had to say.
I think we all need to learn more about what actually happened yesterday in Worcester. I saw some of the images in the video, and it's disturbing, understandably. That said, I'll tell you this. You know, you can't rush to judgment about what's going on.
I agree, you can't rush to judgment. That was Friday. Again, I believe the arrests were on Thursday. Mm-hmm. It's now Tuesday. And unless I missed it, have you heard anything from state leaders about the proliferation of these ICE raids, not just Worcester, but others since? Well,
the governor was quoted elsewhere saying if people are not here lawfully, they are subject to action by ICE. I don't know exactly what she meant by that, but
that's a statement of fact. I mean, obviously.
Well, but I think the difference is, I think lots of people came over the border without authorization, right? And they'd come to the United States and they're trying to become citizens, they're trying to seek asylum. I think a lot of us thought the people that were going to be targeted, which I don't think anybody's upset about, is the people that have done armed robberies or they've done sexual assault or something like that. I think what's upsetting...
Well, right, even if the state officials can't stop it, shouldn't that at least be said that we were told was the goal by Homan and Trump and all these people?
Well, the problem is in too many cases, we all saw that horrible picture from New Bedford where the ICE agent, and some of them have masks on. Yeah. You know, as we were saying before the show,
like Ozturks.
There was a big brouhaha during COVID about wearing masks. A lot of people in law enforcement didn't want to wear masks. A lot of these, I don't think it's about COVID that they're wearing the mask now. I don't know why anybody should be masked in a law enforcement situation. Police officers don't wear masks normally when they go to arrest people. But in this New Bedford case, we all saw the picture of the couple in the car, and the husband was saying that he was waiting for the lawyer to show up, and and then an ICE agent came down with something that looked like a crowbar or something and
shattered the rear window.
The window. That person was released by a federal judge. There was nothing wrong with him. So that's what happened to him. He was kind of dragged out of the car. And then you had in Waltham, you had a 10-year-old child who the ICE people went through his phone.
12, right? 12-year-old.
Well, that was a different case.
Oh, it is? Oh, I didn't know there were two cases in Waltham?
He wasn't stopped.
Oh.
The man in the car with him was stopped, but they went through the 10-year-old's phone,
I didn't know that.
looking on his phone. And you heard Jamie Eldridge from the legislature, State Senator Jamie Eldridge, talking about being concerned about ICE action in Sudbury and Acton and some other places. So I guess it's the idea of people kind of lurking around, like in New Bedford, they were lurking around this Catholic church, St. Anthony of Padua, and the streets were fairly empty on Mother's Day because I think there was fear that there would be ICE attacks on Mother's Day. And, many people in the fishing industry in New Bedford, you know what they are? They're undocumented. And they work in the fishing industry. And as many people have pointed out, one of the problems is when you have abuses, and there was abuse in 2023 in New Bedford, underage children working in fish processing plants. You're not going to tell anybody about these problems if you're fear of getting deported.
But you're just focusing on ICE, and while obviously ICE can be controlled potentially by going to court, state and local officials do have jurisdiction over local police departments. Mm-hmm. And I would like to know more about whether or not people in positions of power thought that the police in Worcester behaved appropriately. If you read the quotes from the mayor of Worcester, he sure as hell did not. He said, his name I think is Petty, devastated to hear about this episode for the family. There's fear in our community of ICE tearing families apart. It's the worst nightmare for our community. And I think we should hear more, again, even if they can't do anything vis-a-vis ICE. No, well, not only from local officials like this, about the police. The police work for the state or the city. In this case, the city. There is jurisdiction over them. The only way that our leaders, state leaders, could control ICE is by going to court. But at minimum, even if they have no formal power, I would like to hear more about how they feel about this omnipresence throughout at least eastern Massachusetts.
Well, as Henry mentioned, this Santoro, who does the news for us up in Worcester, the city hall is going to be closed today at 5 o'clock out of these public safety concerns. And there's this group of people who are very upset. They're called Worcester Indivisible about what's going on up there. And they've invited people to a large and noisy, non-violent, they capitalize that, public standout before the 6:30 council meeting with signs, pots and pans, drums and shakers, and ready to chant. So there's a lot of people that are very, very upset about this. And apparently there's these whole groups of volunteers running around in pink vests that are trying to protect people who find themselves facing an ICE detention or pullover, whatever you want to call it. 877-301-8970 is the number. What do you think about this? I think a lot of us were hoping that we were going to go after violent people, but we'll see what you think. Jay in Charlestown, you were first. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Jay.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I think what's going on is disgusting. I think Istapo is a better name for what this group is with the face coverings. Like, why is that necessary? Why do they need to cover up their badges and who they're working for? I think people should be calling the police and saying, hey, there's a kidnapping going on. And, like, it just doesn't make any sense. I was in the library to hear the governor's words on Friday, and I think she was woefully insufficient in her pushback. Like, she's like, we need to figure out what's going on first. We know what's going on. This isn't a regular administration. This is a terror campaign orchestrated by Stephen Miller and all these nuts. Like, I understand giving people the benefit of the doubt if it's, a regular presidency, but this guy is trying to terrorize people, and it's disgusting.
The terror part of it, you mentioned the mask. Marjorie mentioned the mask, too. We obviously saw the video of Rumeysa Ozturk taken from the streets of Somerville. That is the goal, is to create terror, not just in the individual they're apprehending, but others. And you know what I would like to see, Jay, thanks for an excellent call. The mayor of Newark was arrested for participating in an action against outside a detention center. I believe a city councilor in Worcester, correct me if I'm wrong, was also detained because I believe she was protesting the cops' intervention there too.
Right.
I'd like to see our leaders out there, state and local, even if they have limited power over ICE, showing that they, as Jay just said, they don't support this kind of presence in our state.
The problem is they're doing things to people that have done nothing wrong. Ramesa Ozturk wrote an op-ed in support of Palestinians being slaughtered in Gaza. There was nothing pro-Hamas. They took her off the street, took her to Louisiana. She's down there having repeated asthma attacks because they won't give her... Ooh, I heard myself say that twice.
I don't know what that was. But
asthma attacks because they won't give her medication. You can die from an asthma attack as people that suffer from asthma know. Freezing cold blankets, I don't know why you can't have enough blankets on you to keep warm at night in a facility run by the United States of America. And so think about how traumatized she is. Think about her life. How long has she been down there? For weeks.
But, you know, you keep focusing, and I don't disagree with you, on those who have been targeted. How do you feel if you're in the community? If you're undocumented, how do you feel? Even if you're a citizen of this country, based upon what we've read about some children, as Jay said, it creates terror. And as the mayor of Worcester said, he used the term terrorizing too in their communities. And so it's not just about who they're grabbing, it's about the atmosphere they're creating. And our leaders need to stand up. Ambrielle, I'm sure I mispronounced that, in Framingham, welcome to the show. Hi, was that close?
Hi, it's Ambrielle, actually.
Oh, Ambriella, thank you. Welcome. What's up?
I'm just calling because I also heard Maura Healey on the, I'm sorry, I'm getting an echo.
I'm sorry.
I also heard Governor Healey on the radio.
Yep.
And I just have to say, I am concerned for my neighbors. I'm concerned for who I work for. I work for a roofing company. You know, there's a lot of roofers here. But I do also feel like the leaders are not coming out as strongly as they need to make just everyone feel safe in the state. I actually told my husband, I'm a 54-year-old white woman, middle class, living in Framingham, and I had to tell my husband, listen, if you don't see me and you don't hear from me for an hour or two, assume that I have been taken by ICE.
Listen,
I don't know that I would physically be able to stop myself from intervening if I didn't know what was going on.
We need more of you. Ambriella, that was fabulous. Thank you for the call. Before we break, anonymous texter says, Obama deported millions and you and Marjorie didn't say a word. That's a decent criticism if you had any idea what you were talking about. We said about 100 times we referred to him as deporter-in-chief. So again, criticism is welcome, but fact is even more welcome.
But again, it's important to point out that as far as I know, maybe there were some mistakes in there. He was deporting people that had a criminal record. That's the problem here. Okay, people came over the border. That's illegal, but it's a civil offense. These people do not have a criminal record, except for that in their hometown.
By the way, the Trump people are entitled to bring deportation proceedings against anybody who's here as undocumented, but they're entitled to a hearing, even if they've done something, nothing, as you say, other than crossing the border. With their policy is what you're objecting to. They say we're going after the worst of the worst, and obviously that's not the case.
Yeah, we're talking about the immigration situation. It's got a lot of people in communities very upset, from New Bedford to Waltham to Worcester to Springfield to my hometown of Fall River. The number is 877-301-8970. What do you think? You're listening to Boston Public Radio, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Live, local, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. Today we have one of my favorite enticements.
Me too.
Yeah, this $10 a month for you get this 1 year ad-free subscription to the language learning app Babel, and it is great if you're going to go traveling. Although I don't know people are a little bit nervous now about traveling, but if you're going to go out of the country to some place where they speak a different language, you're going to go to Spain, you're going to go to Mexico, anybody speak Spanish, speak French, speak whatever it is, German. This is a really great app that allows you to learn enough of the language to kind of get around town. The Babel offer is only with us until 7 o'clock. After that, it won't be available for the rest of the drive. So the thing is about them, you can learn this. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your desktop computer, you can do it on your tablet, and you can go from one device to the next. If you start working on your cell phone, then you go later to your computer. Your place will be saved, as it were, 14 languages in the Babel offer. So that's what you get if you sign up to be a sustaining member for $10 a month or give $120 all at once. You get this 12-month subscription to Babel. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
I'm looking. Turkish, Polish, Norwegian, Danish, Russian. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
I know, it is pretty incredible.
So, and I have a feeling you may know this too. The need is obviously even greater now because we're sort of under the gun with the Trump administration. Did you know, I didn't know till I read a story this morning. Do you know that he tried to dismiss every member of the board of the Corporation of Public Broadcasting?
Yeah,
I wasn't aware of that.
But that's against the law too.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of these things are against the law.
Yeah, but by the time they're found to be against the law, the problem is the damage has been done. In any case, we have no idea what the outcome is going to be, but if he's successful, obviously the need will be greater. But even if he isn't successful, the need is there. We told you more than 70% of our money comes from listeners just like you. The Babel thing is fabulous if you can afford $10 or $120 all at once. And if you can't or you're not interested in the Babel, give whatever you can. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. I think we're rounding the proverbial bend on this pledge thing. I think we've got another day or so. So if you've procrastinated, like I do about everything, this is a good opportunity to stop the procrastination, make a phone call, or go online at gbhnews.org. It takes just a minute or so. And if you have an additional minute and you are so inclined, we love when people write notes about why they have chosen to give. You don't have to, but we like it. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marge Regan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Josh Kraft, mayoral candidate, is here at noon. Keith Lockhart, 30th anniversary as conductor of the Pops, is here at 12:30. If you're just and John King's at 1. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about the sharp spike in federal immigration actions and presence in Massachusetts. How do you feel about it? And how do you feel about the reaction from our leaders, local and state? And how do you feel our local police forces are behaving? 877-301-8970.
Not only is this horrible and awful when ICE does this, but because they're unmasked and often identified, I'm worried any horrible person or group of people with malevolent intent will just start grabbing someone off the streets. What's happening with ICE and immigrants is terrible, but these terrible acts could spawn something else awful too. That's from Alyssa in Ithaca, New York. I think that was Ramesa Osterk's original fear, is that who are these people? They had no identifying badges on them. Some of them were masked, and the car was unmarked, so it was pretty scary.
Jimmy in Providence, you're next on Boston Public Radio. We're talking about the increasing ICE presence in Massachusetts. Hey, Jimmy.
How are you guys feeling?
Good.
People need to realize that these ICE agents aren't, they're not special forces and they're not Army Rangers. And if they're hiding their faces, I mean, I don't know how to put it, but if I see a violent felony in progress on the street, and I don't see masks and I don't see badges, my training tells me to do one thing. So I don't know what their answer is for that, but that's coming.
Well, you know, that's essentially, if you watch the video, which I'm guessing you saw even in Providence, that's essentially what neighborhood people did in Worcester, which theoretically was why, while the police were called, but I'll cite another. The president of the NAACP in Worcester talked about the overwhelming numbers of police, he believed, far in excess of what was needed, and they were there, as he said, to protect ICE, which at least rubbed him the wrong way. Jimmy, thank you for the call. 877-301-8970. You looking up something really important?
Yes, I am.
Please.
Mass Live is reporting, and the Boston Herald is reporting that the woman that was taken into custody in Worcester was suspected of using a phone charging cable to strike a pregnant relative 3 months ago, according to police. So it's an assault and battery charge with a dangerous weapon on a pregnant woman. So that...
Do we know about the 16-year-old? Is that in there? Do we know if that's her daughter, or we don't know that either?
We don't know. There was an infant on the scene there, and the 16-year-old was on the ground by the Worcester police and put in handcuffs and taken away. But it's not clear to me whose baby it was. Was it the woman that was taken away, or was it the 16-year-old? I don't know.
But would you not agree with that first caller that the goal here is to create fear in communities well beyond... If you're living in Somerville, for example, and you watch that Ozturk video, which all of us have seen probably hundreds of times, how do you feel comfortable in your neighborhood? Even if you're like that woman who called before, a 54-year-old white woman, wherever she was calling from, how do you feel secure in that neighborhood? I don't think you can.
Well, again, I think that's what I'm trying to say. There's a difference between someone who is suspected of a crime, especially a violent crime, and someone like the guy in New Bedford that was released by a judge because he hadn't done anything wrong, even though the ICE people smashed into his window, or Ramesa Ozturk, who was held for weeks in Louisiana and had done nothing wrong. I mean,
what would the harm have been when he said, "I'm waiting for my lawyer"? What would the harm have been for ICE? They're not going to leave. They stay in place. They're all with weapons. What would the harm have been to give the guy 10 minutes to have his lawyer show up?
I don't think there would have been any harm. And by the way, the Globe is now reporting that the woman that was taken away is the mother of the 16-year-old who was arrested by the police.
Oh, was her daughter? Okay.
But we still don't know about the baby.
Nicole in Dorchester, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me. I just want to echo what the other callers were saying about how I feel like Governor Healy's response has been just incredibly not meeting the moment. And it's interesting hearing other callers say that, because people have been saying that in my life as well. And I'm curious as to why she's not using the state police, or really leaning into the power that she has. If there's one lesson from this Trump administration, it's that there's a lot of levers of power that you can use, and we should do that too. It's really about protecting our state, less about obviously it is an immigration issue, but just you're coming and doing this in our state to our people. Meet the moment. She really isn't, and it's been so disappointing.
Well, Nicole, I don't know if I said this before. I just thought it. If I said it, my apologies for repeating myself. I sort of understand her hesitancy to go further on Friday, because unless I got the date wrong, it was just 12 hours after it had happened. But since Friday, it's not. Is this Tuesday? It's not Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's surely enough time for the chief law enforcement person in the state, Andrea Campbell, the governor, to have examined this and taken a strong position. And it's not just Worcester, it's also all these other communities Marjorie's mentioning. I think we need our leaders to say, this is not who we are. This kind of behavior is not, meaning on the part of ICE, is not what this state is all about. And I haven't heard it, and I'm actually mystified that we have not. Thank you for a fine phone call. We appreciate it. 877-301-8970.
I am so horrified about these ICE raids. I find myself observing my surroundings in a new heightened way. I was at Porch Fest in Somerville Saturday, worried ICE would show up in retaliation for the release of Ramesa Ozturk and warned my family I may be arrested for interfering with ICE if they showed up. It's so sad for this country.
By the way, the family's lawyer, according to NBC News, in the Worcester case, last name Latarulo, said the mother is seeking asylum and the three daughters, including the 16-year-old, are in the country under the Deferred Action Program. Let's go to Kevin in Bedford. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good. Thank you.
Second-time caller.
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in New Bedford, and I just wanted to update everybody about what we're doing here. We have probably close to 100 people involved in 4 or 5 different groups, including ICE Watch, Rapid Response, and Financial Response to those that are affected. We've fundraised. We've put a lot of groups together that can immediately provide transportation to children left behind. We can provide some financial support for the ongoing daily needs when a breadwinner is taken away. We're working hard.
Who's we, by the way, Kevin? Is there an organization, or is it a ad hoc organization? Who's doing this? Who's we?
There are 5 groups. One group of high school students.
Wow.
One group called Rapid Response, one group called Ice Watch, and then an overall umbrella name is Humanity at Work.
Humanity at
and
Work.
We're working on it hard. We're trying to get it going. We're fundraising, and we feel real confident that we're going to make an impact.
Good for you and all of your
Yeah.
fellow New Bedfordians or whatever the hell they're called. No, really. Bedford. I'm sorry. Thank you, Kevin. That's really fabulous. I think it was New Bedford. I'm sorry.
Somebody is writing about Barack Obama, the deporter-in-chief. At least Obama sent people back to their countries of origin and not sent them off to El Salvador if they didn't come from there. Or he was talking about Libya last week. And by the way, we should point out that while these people are being swept off the street, and people who helped American troops in Afghanistan who are here under temporary protective status, they're going back to Afghanistan this summer, and the Taliban is still ruling Afghanistan. So I would say their lives are in danger for helping Americans. Plus, what is happening to the white Afrikaners from South Africa, about whom Trump is lying and saying they're all being not all being murdered, but they're being murdered, their land is being taken away. There have been some murders, but there's been murders of black farmers and white farmers. They're getting fast-tracked to the United States, white Afrikaners.
At the same time, speaking of Afghanistan, people who helped our troops during the war who were approved for refugee status are still stuck in Afghanistan at great personal risk. We got to take a break.
Okay, we've got to take a break. We are moving on. We're talking to Trenni Casey up next. We're going to talk to Trenni Casey up next. We're going to talk about the Celtics. Oh, my God. Jason Tatum getting hurt. And the latest on Bill Belichick and his troublesome girlfriend. That's next on Boston Public Radio 89.7 GB. Well, she's causing Bill some problems, I would say. Wouldn't you say, Jim? Allegedly causing him problems. Okay. And she came in third in Miss Maine, though.
That is correct.
Yep, that was over the weekend, I guess.
That's correct, yes.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
Okay, we have some listener comments. I love to read these because often they say very nice things about me and Jim, and that makes me very happy. But I love this one from Kristen in Littleton. She just sends this all in cap letters. Thank you for all of your hard work. I love that one. That's great. Then Moore from Wakefield says, I'm a big fan of Masterpiece, the PBS NewsHour, Boston Public Radio, and the Culture Show. And then a friend in Shrewsbury says, support the public news at the time of federal cuts. And we are under some, you got the guillotine poised over our head, for some possible federal cuts. We hope that doesn't happen.
Do you remember what Trump's first words to us were when he was on our show in New Hampshire?
Yeah,
what
it's an honor to talk to you.
It's an honor to be with you. That's exactly what he said.
I guess things have changed. That was in 2015, I guess.
Or 16 or something.
Whatever it was. Valerie in Shrewsbury, GBH is the only place to go for trusted and reliable news. Thank you for everything you do. Isn't that nice?
It is really nice.
888-897-9424. gbhnews.org is the website. If you would care to donate and join these people and say something nice about the station, that'd be wonderful, and then we can read it. And you also get this great Babel deal for $10 a month. 888-897-9424. gbhnews.org.
The Babel deal, as Marjorie refers to it, is a 1-year ad-free subscription to this great language learning app called Babel. 14 languages, which is a lot of languages. You can use any and all of them if you choose. This offer, Marjorie loves this, when offers expire at 7 p.m.
That's right.
She prefers if the offers expire at 2 p.m.
So we get credit.
But in any case, and the number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. As Marjorie said, that's $10 a month to do that kind of thing. But whatever you can afford, give it. I mean, I've said this a few times this week. Marjorie and I made our first contributions. We didn't know it till we started working here, long before we worked here. And when you give whatever you gave the first time, and I'm guessing I wasn't even a sustaining member, I have no recollection. I know I gave money. You really feel good because you value the station. You know, it's listener support. And you're doing your share. What was the expression we've used that Romney used when he was doing the healthcare thing?
Not freeloader, free rider. Free rider, right. That was his expression.
We're not supposed to say that, but you sort of are. I mean, the reality is if other listeners are doing what they can, then maybe you should consider doing what you can if you haven't already. And you do it by calling 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. It's quick, And then if you leave a note, particularly if you say something really good about Marjorie, she will read read the note.
Absolutely.
gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424. And if you have time, leave a little message, as I said, and we thank you. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan, live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Mayoral candidate Josh Kraft joins us at noon. Keith Lockhart, 30 years as head of the Pops, joins us at 12:30. Right now, we're joined live at the library desk by Trenni Casey, anchor and reporter for NBC Sports Boston, and a BPR contributor. Hi, Trenni.
Hi, guys.
Hello, Trenni. So we want to play a little sound from last night's game. Unfortunately, it's a terrible sound of this is between the Celtics and the Knicks, of course, when Jason Tatum got hurt.
Jaylen Brown back in, lost the ball. Anunoby all by himself throws it down. And Tatum is hurt. Tatum is down. He wants a timeout. Tatum in so much pain. And the Celtics call a timeout, grabbing that right ankle.
Okay, all of us that were hoping for a return of the championship, things are not looking good.
No, I mean, if you watch this video and if you've watched sports before, you knew immediately it was an Achilles. When you go down and crumble in that kind of pain and you immediately grab your ankle, I thought to myself, not only are they going to lose him for this series, for this postseason, they're most likely going. Now, we are awaiting MRI results, so the preliminary thought is that he has a ruptured Achilles. Based on how he acted, he had to be wheelchaired out. We don't know. He'll have an MRI today. But if that is the case, which most people think it is, you won't just lose him for this offseason. You will lose him probably all of next year.
Yeah.
Like a ruptured Achilles is an athlete's worst nightmare. An ACL, you can come back from probably in a couple of months, the way that they, knee injuries, things like that. But when you blow up your Achilles, Kevin Durant did it, Kobe Bryant did it. Now, both came back to play. Neither were the high-level athletes that they were after. Still very, very, very good players, but not at the top of their game. But the one thing that Jason Tatum has going for him is that both Kevin Durant and Kobe Bryant, when they blew out their Achilles, were in their 30s. Jason Tatum is only 27, so it stinks because he's in the prime of his career. But also, hopefully that lends itself to maybe a better, faster healing process and gives him a little bit more time to come back full.
And by the way, he was playing one of his best games I have ever seen.
He was carrying
42 points.
And
he had 40,
also hitting
all the threes
practically from half court. I mean, it was incredible.
He was the only person. He was the only reason the Celtics were in that game last night. Like everybody else, it was like Jaylen Brown. The turnover that injury happened on, it was just a microcosm of what had been going on. Jaylen Brown had a terrible game last night. He turns the ball over. Jason Tatum is trying to sacrifice. He literally sacrificed his body to try and save it, get them back in it. The only reason they even had a chance to win last night was because of Jason Tatum. And listen, we're 9-2 this season without Jason Tatum on the floor. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they could come back still and win this series. I don't think that they will.
They're down 3-1 for those who are not paying attention.
Yeah, they probably weren't going to win that game last night, even with Jason Tatum on the court. I think they're wildly fatigued after a championship run and the Olympics this offseason and going to Abu Dhabi. I think they are going to be like the 5 teams prior to them who won championships. The Celtics, if the Celtics go out in the second round, they will be the 6th straight team to not make it past the second round after winning a title.
By the way,
it's not uncommon.
Unrelated to this, Globe is reporting Trump administration has announced yet another $450 million cut.
Oh yeah, I saw
to
that.
Harvard. I don't want to get too deep in the woods here about the game. But one of the things I love in basketball is when a normal-sized person is spectacular. Steph Curry is probably the best example. He's 6'2", and this guy Brunson for the Knicks.
Jalen Brunson, he's only 6 feet taller, 6'1".
I looked it up last night. One of the greatest players I've ever seen in my life. He is so smooth. He's brilliant.
And he's clutch.
Yeah.
Like he is one of these players, it's not a measurable statistic, but there are just some people who have ice in their veins in the biggest moments, and Jalen Brunson is one of those players. And part of it, I know you guys sent a story, is because his father, Rich Brunson, was also not anywhere near the basketball player that his son is, but from this general area, I believe went to school
connection with Salem.
Salem, that's right. Salem, New Hampshire. Or Salem, Massachusetts, Salem, Massachusetts. And so he grew up around basketball, right? So I think when you kind of grow up around pro teams and you develop that sort of professional attitude at a young age and you just are like constantly surrounded by otherworldly athletes, I think just by, you just kind of like absorb some of that.
Have you, in all of your sports working stuff, I assume I know that wasn't articulated for you. You don't have to laugh at me, but actually I would have laughed at me too.
I thought that green juice would help you.
What is this green thing? It's fabulous. Do you have any idea? Marjorie, hello? What is this thing I'm drinking?
Oh, it's some power boost drink.
Exactly.
I love
and let me tell you, my power is as boosted as it's been in months.
Well, good for you, Jim.
As I lean on the counter here, about to fall over. What was my... Oh, have you ever been around a great athlete in your travels, either wherever you were, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, wherever it was, who had to be out a year or a long period of time? How do they deal when they're that competitive in every moment of their life? How do they deal with rehab?
Gosh, I'm trying to think of anyone that I've been around, like an athlete. I mean, I didn't cover the Patriots, but obviously Tom Brady. I mean, for Tom Brady, if you want to find like a silver lining, I think there could be two silver linings to this. When Tom Brady blew out his knee in the first game of the 2008 season, coming off that undefeated year where they lost to the Giants, like heartbreak in the Super Bowl. Whether or not you agree with the methods of which, but that is when Tom Brady discovered Alex Guerrero and completely changed the way that he trained, completely changed the way that he ate and lived his life. He became, I don't think he's entirely plant-based, but he's, he went into that like no nightshades diet,
whatever that means.
All the mumbo jumbo, but listen, again, even if it's not for you and we have maybe some questions about the method or, the person who distributed that advice, Tom Brady had a complete resurgence of his career. Everyone thought that his career could be over after blowing out his knee and having the ACL
That's
injury.
A great point.
And he was better afterwards. The other thing is, listen.
Of course, he's the greatest quarterback who ever lived.
The greatest
quarterback,
right? But who knows?
Well, Tatum is a pretty good basketball player.
That's a good point, too.
And he is a tenacious worker. Like Jason Tatum, if you follow him on Instagram or any kind of social media and you see what he does in the off season, like the weightlifting, the plyometrics, all the like little plyometrics, like jumping, moving, like getting like so that that's pliability.
Power drinks, that's the key.
Power drinks, that's
green power drinks. But who knows? Maybe he sort of revamps his training and digs deep and finds something else. The other positive, Jim, could be. This team, they were going to need to make some really tough decisions because they're in the second apron for the second year, which is that means you just...
Extra taxes.
That means a lot of extra taxes that you're paying. And with the new ownership, they were going to have to make some hard decisions. Now they're definitely forced to make some difficult decisions, and they're going to have to figure out a way to stay competitive without Jason Tatum on the floor. So I think it's just really going to test the mettle of Brad Stevens, who is a brilliant general manager, and it could end up being, at the end of the day, a blessing in disguise, and maybe the team looks even better in 2 years.
Okay, so we had a big staff meeting this morning. We decided to be responsible journalists. We had to talk about real sports for 8 minutes and 15 seconds.
That's right.
Before we talked about Bill Belichick and Jordon Hudson.
That's right.
So we're now going to take a break and going to talk about what we really want to talk about.
And all Jordan.
All the time.
We come back. You're listening to Boston Public Radio at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Not talking about this.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support. So please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
Okay, so here's the deal. Is tomorrow the last day of pledge?
Yes.
Tomorrow's the last day of pledge, so get your act together.
That's right.
Call 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org, and give what you can. Today's, what do you call it? Enticement? Gift, whatever it is this 1 year online ad-free subscription to this great language learning app, Babel. How many languages do you speak, by the way?
I speak one.
You speak one. Do you remember?
I do know some French.
So do I.
A little bit of Spanish.
Do you remember
but I wouldn't
when
try to...
Barack Obama was president and he said, in this country, when we say merci beaucoup,
Merci beaucoup.
we think we're bilingual.
Yep, I can do that. Merci
We're the only
beaucoup.
country in the world where people don't speak another language.
La toilette.
Thank you.
That's important to know.
That's good.
In 7
and you know what
languages.
else? La livre est sur la table.
La livre est
Thank
sur
you
la
very
table.
much.
That's
okay.
very good too.
You're not going to outdo me. In any case, if you really want to learn a language as opposed to this BS from me and Marjorie, you go to, what do? You go to 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And if you can afford $10 a month or $120 all at once, I think, and if you're so inclined, you can get this thing for a year. It disappears at 7 o'clock. So you got to do it at 7, and Marjorie would actually like you to do it before 2, so she gets credit.
I would.
Even though there's no such thing.
There is such a thing.
Go ahead.
And as I always say, if we didn't do this a few times a year, we would have commercials every day. And Jim and I used to work in commercial radio.
We did.
And we had 3 commercials every hour, and they would last like 6 or 7 minutes. You know how upsetting it is to have to sit through those commercials. That's what we would have if we didn't do this fundraising, because we are free to people, and that's why we ask you to contribute, because the vast majority of our money, more than 70% of it, comes from the generosity of listeners like you. Small donations, $5, $10, $15. But we have the hammer from the federal government over our heads. We're hoping that Congress does not cut funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and PBS and, the little wombats. What about the wombats, Jim? That would be terrible.
Sad. They're
what about
pretty great. Remember the wombat was here when the
wombats
thing
were here.
launched?
They're adorable.
They were really quite cute.
They got the guillotine poised over their head, too. It's an outrage. Anyway, we hope that doesn't happen. But as people say in these letters to us, Lucien from Hudson is one of them. These are listener comments from someone who's already given to donate to the station. This station is important to democracy. I'd like to think we have a small role to help get factual information out there. So 888-897-9424. Operators are standing by. And to give really quickly, you go to gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Mayoral candidate Josh Kraft at noon. 30th anniversary boy Keith Lockhart at 12:30. John King at 1. We're continuing our conversation first with Trenni Casey.
Okay, Trenni, we know that the breaking news over the weekend is that Jordon Hudson ran for Miss Maine. She came in 3rd place. But the other big breaking news is that at University of North Carolina, where Bill Belichick is going to go be the football coach, we think, well, tell us the latest. I mean, it's up. It kind of sounds a little shaky.
So Pablo Torre, I don't know if you guys ever followed any of his reporting. He used to be at ESPN, and he's actually a pretty good investigative reporter. He has a podcast now called Pablo Torre Finds Out. And he did some digging. I listened to the entire podcast. It was only 51 minutes. And which is, I know, James, you're laughing at me, Jamie, but I put on a podcast the other day. It was 4 hours, and I was like, absolutely not, get an editor.
Yeah.
So I pay attention to how long podcasts are.
Okay.
But he had 11 different sources at North Carolina within the Belichick family, and there were some concerning, reports in there. One, that the University of North Carolina has told Bill Belichick that Jordon Hudson can no longer have any sort of official role. Like she's allowed at the facility, but she's not allowed at the facility. She's allowed at the facility the way I'm allowed at my husband's office. Like I can go in and say hi to his colleagues and, to the executive assistant.
But you're not trying any cases.
Right. I'm not going in and deciding whether or not we're going to litigate this patent or not. like I'm not allowed to do that because I don't know how to do that. Some of the other things that I found interesting, the family has been extremely concerned. Belichick's family.
Allegedly.
With her involvement and how it is impacting his legacy and his long-term reputation. My favorite quote from the entire podcast was, I worked with Jordon Hudson. She is the worst person I've ever met, and I worked with 2 sociopaths.
Whoa, that's right.
That was my favorite quote from the whole podcast.
So can I embarrass myself for a second? Well, I criticize you 2 every week.
You can't get enough of it, can you, Jim?
Guess what I did on the weekend?
You watched the Miss Maine pageant.
I got to tell the truth. I tried to watch the Miss Maine pageant. I went on to some cockamamie website, pageant.com or something, and you register, you do whatever the hell you do, and then it pops up. You have to pay $29 a month to watch the damn pageant.
You could have,
I say, I don't think so.
Could have canceled it. You could have paid the $30 and then canceled it.
You could have gotten in the car and driven up to Maine and seen the whole thing.
Bangor.
Bangor.
So we have one of our one of our hosts, reporters at NBC 10 was a judge this weekend.
No.
And we desperately wanted to have her
in
Maine. We wanted to have her on our show yesterday, and she couldn't because she had to sign an NDA.
Oh, no.
And I was like, stop
that is
it.
so sad.
That is it's unbelievable. But the whole thing has just been a spectacle, right? And I think at the end of the day, so Pablo Torre yesterday went on Dominique Foxworth's podcast and he's just a former athlete who has a podcast now. And they were talking about the situation again, and Foxworth asked Pablo Torre, do you think Bill Belichick will coach at the University of North Carolina? And he said there is a chance that he will not. So don't forget, June 1st is a big date for Bill Belichick.
Money.
Because money. Yeah. So in order, like the University of North Carolina tried to protect themselves as much as they could if Belichick all of a sudden said, I'm going to leave and go coach an NFL team. There was a $10 million buyout prior to June 1st, but after June 1st, Belichick could buy himself out of the contract. Not only Belichick can buy himself out of the contract for $1 million. I don't know what the North Carolina side is. But if Belichick does not like that he's being reined in, being told what to do, not being able to run his football team with the people that he wants to run it, who's to say that he won't just pay $1 million to Bill Belichick is nothing if he says, you know what, this isn't worth the headache. Here's the $1 million. I'm out. I'm going back to the NFL Today and all these, podcasts and the Manning cast and things like that. So June 1st is a day to keep an eye on to see whether or not he decides to stay at the University of North Carolina.
So why don't you continue to
also,
ruin
Jordon
our
Hudson
reputation
apparently.
for 2 more minutes?
Well, I
Wait,
just
Jordan
think
what?
She apparently was asked to do Dancing with the Stars, but she turned it down. She has apparently there's something else she wants to do.
Well, they hired somebody to do the PR for them, right? Because
they
were
did. They
so
hired
concerned
someone,
about
I think,
her being in all the emails.
Yeah, formerly from the Bears, something Faber. Faber is his last name. I can't remember his name, but I mean, listen. At the end of the day, like. I don't know what Bill Belichick thought was going to happen. I don't know if he thought that his reputation, it was bulletproof. If he felt because of all of what he accomplished as a football coach that he could run around and do whatever he wanted and there wouldn't be any negative backlash. But ever since the CBS Sunday Morning piece aired, it has been a deluge of people leaking information to different, news outlets and reporters about what an absolute disaster this is behind the scenes.
I'm sorry I can't think of what the outlet is, but after the CBS thing, a lot of people thought he was not going to do any more interviews about the book.
Oh, no, he's doing one Friday.
With Michael Strahan.
Yes.
But before that...
Do you think Michael Strahan? So he has to ask him.
Fabulous
so he's
he's
a former football player for the New York Giants. But I do wonder if he will ask about the relationship. Like you have to, right? Like you can't go on national television and not ask.
Whatever interview he did in between, he got to approve all of the questions, which I have never heard of in a real news organization.
Did you know his book already came out? Like I didn't even know his book came out last week. So it's already out. Like I don't know. I saw like a bunch of reviews last week of the book. I just assumed they were advanced copies, but no, it's available for purchase now. But you don't even know because all anyone's talking about is the third runner-up or second runner-up.
On this?
I think we could. Jordan, Trenni, and Marjorie.
Okay, fine. We're done. Goodbye.
I don't want to include her.
Say goodbye to Trenni. Trenni, it's very nice
Bye,
to see you.
Trenni.
Okay. We've been speaking with Trenni Casey, anchor reporter for NBC Sports Boston and Boston Public Radio contributor. Thanks a lot, Trenni. Coming up after the noon news, we're going to talk with Josh Kraft, who is running to be the next mayor of Boston. He's going to be right here with us at the library. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener support is the most important and largest source of funding for GBH. Please take a few minutes and give right now. When you do, you'll be one of the many people who helps keep Boston Public Radio on the air. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424. I'm Zach Finn, and I'm here with Melissa Jones.
We're looking to receive 12 contributions in the next 6 or so minutes. Meeting that goal helps us stay on track for this membership drive and ensures we have the money we need to pay for Boston Public Radio in the months ahead. So think about giving $10 a month, $15 a month or more on the Sustainer plan, but why don't you just make sure you're one of the 12 people we're looking to give in the next 6 minutes? gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Support GBH at $10 a month and receive a 1-year ad-free subscription to the language learning app Babel. You can study one language. You can study multiple languages. Your subscription provides access to all 14 languages that Babel has to offer. So sign up as a sustaining member to GBH at $10 a month and ask for your 12-month subscription to Babel. You can also give $120 all at once if you like. Either way, that deadline is coming up at 7 o'clock. After that, it will no longer be available. Online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
You listen to Boston Public Radio because it helps keep you informed on what is happening in our neighborhoods, in Boston and across our state. Jim and Marjorie ask the questions you want answered by the people who make the changes that affect your day-to-day life. And that's why we're asking for your gift now so we can continue serving you with exactly this kind of content. Give now at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Public media's existence is under attack from several directions, including an executive order from the White House to revoke our federal funding. Now, if you've never given to GBH before, please know your support is more important than ever. The government isn't going to keep public radio strong. It's you, our listeners, who will ensure that the NPR and GBH news you count on stays on the air and speaking truth to power. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
A great way to give right now is to become a sustainer that's making an ongoing monthly contribution in the amount that is just right for you. You can have that taken from your checking account or your credit card, and you're in charge of your support here at GBH when you do that. And it provides a nice steady stream of reliable income for GBH, so we know what we're looking at and can make sure that we're always here for you, and you are always supporting. That's the thing I love best about being a sustainer. Why don't you join with me in being a sustainer right now at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And now just 7 more people to give in the next 4 minutes. That's what we need here. That's what we need to stay on track right now. So please contribute what you can. Help pay for the news and information that you can always trust and that you can always rely on. Any and all gifts are welcome. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Okay, so let's put together the idea of giving a gift right now and making a sustaining gift. Give $10 a month right now, and we'll thank you with that great 1-year ad-free subscription to Babel. You can study one language or multiple languages. It offers up to 14, so there's plenty to choose from. And you can share this with others in your life. So you guys can, plan a trip, learn the language, take the trip, speak the language. It's amazing. And it's our thanks to you when you give to GBH right now. This offer goes away at 7 o'clock, though, so don't delay. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And hey, time flies when you're having fun. It's the next to last day of our spring membership drive. Now, you've probably been meaning to give. Maybe you had your hand on the phone or on the wallet, but then, of course, kind of as always, right, there's some kind of distraction. Well, the time to give is almost gone. So please take those couple of minutes right now and support your listening in these months ahead. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
We're making great progress on that goal. Thank you so much for giving your support right now. If you haven't, like Zach just said, why wait 1 second longer? We need you in the next couple of minutes in order to wrap up this hour on target for the drive at this point. So give us that call at 888-897-9424 or make your contribution online right now at gbhnews.org.
And now, if you've never given to public radio before, we are talking to you. You listen every day. You count on NPR and GBH as your primary source for news. And this station runs on idealism, right? It runs on the belief that you will see the fairness in paying for what you use. GBH is worthy of that attention. It's why you listen. So now we ask you, please give an amount that you think is fair. Become a first-time member to GBH right now. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
And it's so quick and easy to give. You want to make sure that you can just grab that phone or go online and make that gift quick and easy and move on and know that you're supporting GBH. So it doesn't take long. We just need a couple of bits of information from you, of course, and you choose the amount you want to give and how you want to give it, and then you make that gift happen right now. We're coming up at just the end of this little pledge break here, so if you've made that gift, thank you so much. If you haven't, now is the time to make that happen. You do that by going online to GBH gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424. Let me say that again in case you're distracted. 888-897-9424. And thanks so much for your support.
Funding for our programs comes from you and Supermicro and NVIDIA, accelerating AI with a wide range of AI servers and the NVIDIA AI Enterprise software platform. Supermicro is committed to driving AI infrastructure breakthroughs with rack-scale innovations. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, ranked #1 in member satisfaction among commercial health plans in Massachusetts by J.D. Power for the second consecutive year. Details at mgbhp.org/everyday.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on Hour 2 of Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library. We'll talk with Josh Kraft, longtime nonprofit leader in Boston and now mayoral challenger to Boston's Michelle Wu. We'll hear his vision for the city and why he thinks he's the leader Boston needs this year.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then we're celebrating springtime with the Boston Pops and conductor Keith Lockhart, his 30th season with the orchestra. The star-studded series kicked off this month with a performance from Wicked star Cynthia Erivo, with a lot of incredible guests still to come, including newly returned astronaut Sunita Williams. Then we'll see if Jim can get Keith to reveal any details about July 4th performances. It's all next in the second hour of Boston Public Radio, 89.7, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. An elaborate Saudi welcome to President Trump on his first major international trip of his second term. He's in Riyadh, currently addressing a forum of investors.
For the people in this room, the days of economic misery under the last administration are rapidly giving way to the greatest economy in the history of the world. We are rocking. The United States is the hottest country, with the exception of your country, I have to say, right?
President Trump announced $600 billion in business deals between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, including over $140 billion in arms deals. He is due to visit Qatar, the UAE as well, and now, according to a White House official, has agreed to briefly meet with Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara tomorrow. He'd suggested he was open to removing U.S. sanctions on Syria. A visit to Israel is currently not on the itinerary. NPR's Zaya Batrawi has more on the significance of President Trump's visit to the Middle East.
For Trump, he really wants to cap his presidency with another Abraham Accords deal, the prize being Saudi Arabia and Israel establishing ties. But Saudis have been clear it's not going to happen without an end to the war, a path towards a Palestinian state. But the U.S. has direct talks with Hamas now, and that led to yesterday's release of the last living American held in Gaza. So Trump is clearly doing things differently, and I think the perception here in the Gulf is that is exactly what's needed right now.
NPR's Zaya Batrawi. More than 300 experts on drug addiction have sent a letter to Congress urging lawmakers to block cuts to addiction treatment programs. More from NPR's Brian Mann.
The letter points out drug deaths dropped fast last year and argues tens of thousands of lives were saved because of federal spending focused on addiction. Chad Sabora is an addiction activist who helped circulate the letter.
This would take us light years back. Basically implode the current structure that treats substance use as a public health issue.
The White House budget would slash billions from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Substance Use and Mental Health Services Administration, and other agencies focused on addiction. Experts also fear deep cuts to Medicaid, the program that pays for most addiction health treatment in the U.S. Brian Mann, NPR News.
Well, inflation cooled last month due in part to cheaper eggs. Here's NPR's Scott Horsley.
Consumers got a break last month at both the grocery store and the gas station. Grocery prices fell by 0.4% in April, led by a sharp drop in the price of eggs as farmers got a seasonal reprieve from avian flu. Consumer prices overall were up 2.3% from a year ago. That's the smallest annual increase in more than 4 years. Stripping out volatile food and energy prices, core inflation was 2.8%, unchanged from the month before. Furniture prices were up last month, which may reflect the cost of higher tariffs. So far, though, retail prices show limited fallout from the trade war. Analysts say that could change in the months to come.
It's NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The Trump administration's anti-Semitism task force has announced an additional $450 million in funding cuts to Harvard. Today's announcement comes a day after Harvard President Alan Garber sent a letter to Secretary of Education Linda McMahon denouncing the Trump administration's funding as cuts as unlawful government outreach. The cuts add to the more than $2.2 billion in research funding for Harvard that the government had previously frozen after the university refused to comply with Trump's list of demands. Harvard has been locked in a standoff with the Trump administration for more than a month, and according to a press release, the Trump administration's Joint Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism, these new cuts come from 8 different federal agencies. Area oyster farmers are worried about rising production costs thanks to President Trump's tariffs. The farmers say the tariffs for internationally made oyster farming equipment, like nets, cages, traps, and other items, could significantly add to their operational costs. The New Bedford Light reports that while shellfish farmers don't want to raise prices for the consumer, it would mean that they have to absorb the higher costs themselves, which could affect the way that they run their businesses. And senior citizens who have lived in Marblehead for more than 10 years and who can prove they are in tough financial shape are now eligible for property tax breaks under a new measure that was adopted at town meeting. 66 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Auto Insurance protects the vehicles that work to keep small businesses moving forward, including protection while running errands and other tasks. At progressivecommercial.com.
Here's Jim Brady. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live. Thank you from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back here tomorrow. And again on Friday, Andrea Campbell, the Attorney General, will be with us May 21st from 1 to 2. And Mayor Wu will be with us May 28th from noon to 1. Hello again, Jim.
Keith Lockhart at 12:30.
That's right.
Can we get a camera on Marjorie's desk there and the
I got everything
disaster
lined up.
that it is?
I've got a lot of stories.
Oh, sure you do.
Jim sent me home with a pile.
I did.
I know everything there is to know about you at this point.
You talk about me or Josh Kraft?
There we go. This is my Josh Kraft pile. It's
In any
extensive.
case, we are joined now at the library desk by Josh Kraft. He's head of the Kraft Family Philanthropies, board chair of the National Urban League's Eastern Massachusetts chapter, and of course was the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Boston. He's running for mayor to unseat Michelle Wu in this year's mayoral race. Josh Kraft, it's great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in.
Jim, Marjorie, it's great to be here.
It is.
And I have to start.
Yeah.
It's great to see you both in person, because I'm used to seeing your puppet forms in Ryan Landry's productions.
Do you go to the Gold Dust Orphans?
I've been to the Gold Dust Orphans
How
a few
great
times.
is Ryan?
Great. It's entertaining, but you guys steal the show.
That's
every
right.
year.
We do. Do you know that we created his most important thing? He became a canned tomato influencer and got an all-expense-paid trip to Italy because of his appearances on the show. So maybe something good will happen to you too,
Hey,
Josh.
let's hope.
Let's see what happens.
I want them to do a puppet of me like you both.
I know, it was pretty fun.
That's pretty good.
He's a great entertainer. So for people that don't know you, Josh Kraft, just flesh out a little bit more. Jim mentioned you worked for years at the Boys and Girls Clubs, but tell people a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks, Marjorie. So, look, I'll start with, what everybody knows about me. I was born into extreme privilege. In my words, I like to say I was not born on third base. I was born all the way back at home plate.
That's a good one.
And I'm very open about that. And was born into privilege. But what that allowed me to do, that privilege, allowed me to really access another great privilege, another great honor. And that was being able to commit my life, 35 years, my professional life, to community work. With 30 years with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston, I started knocking on doors in public housing developments, pulling kids that weren't going to school and trying my best to get them to go to school. And I ended the 30 years, 12 years as CEO when we were able to double the number of kids served and double the annual budget. But in addition to that, I've gotten to do a lot of great work in the communities you mentioned, not just the Urban League, but I focused a lot of time in the reentry world as well as the substance use disorder world. And it's these 35 years, what's been so special about them and so great is the people that I've been honored and, again, privileged not just to work with, but to learn from. And they've taught me so much about life, about character, resilience, hope, dreams, and so on. And those are the people that have inspired me every single day and, frankly, have inspired me to really want to continue my community work career with the ultimate community job, being the mayor of Boston.
Why would you be better at that than the incumbent?
Why would I? Well, one of the things I've heard, I've been through all the neighborhoods speaking to a bunch of folks, and a lot of folks on the ground feel like the city is headed in the wrong direction. And when you ask them, and I don't know if we have time, we could talk about policy and so on and so forth.
We'll talk about some of it, of course.
But yeah, like housing, schools.
Sure.
But the number one theme that comes up for a lot of folks, and you're talking from Mattapan Square to the Back Bay to East Boston to West Roxbury, a consistent theme that comes up is people don't feel listened to. They don't feel heard. And in my own career, the essence of community work is meeting people where they're at, listening to them, hearing from them. That doesn't mean you do everything they want, but you use that organically to come up from the bottom to make leadership
decisions. If they don't feel listened to, I'm sure you've seen this before. I poll out this morning, 53-21, 7 in 10 say they're satisfied with the quality of life in Boston. And by the way, significantly for you, that's a much larger lead for Wu than the first poll from Emerson, where there was only a 14-point margin. Why are they missing what you think is at least a critical issue in this race?
Definitely. Thanks, Jim. So those two polls, whether it's 14 points for me or significantly more, it's way too early to think and worry about polls.
But if people don't feel listened to, why does such a large number feel that she's the appropriate person to keep leading?
The next step I was going to say, Jim, is it's too early to worry about polls, but I'm going to go by what myself and folks from our team that are here today, we've heard in the neighborhoods. Again, from the Back Bay to Mattapan Square, from West Roxbury to Eastie, we have heard that people do not feel listened to very consistently. And I think the proof was in the pudding on Signature Day, the first day of signatures. We had 400 volunteers. This is, again, our campaign. My campaign started February 4th. We had, on April 30th, we had, 3 months, 90 days, roughly. We had 400 volunteers out getting signatures for us, and we collected 6,500 in day one. Now, of course, they're not all 100, but to us, that speaks volumes about how people are feeling on the ground in the community.
Josh Kraft, what are they not listened to about?
Well, I can give some examples.
Please do.
Right out here, you see the bike lanes right here. And actually, I talked about the bike lanes in the announcement speech, and shortly, us taking a pause and doing research to figure out the most efficient way to lay bike lanes for people and for small businesses. And shortly after we did that, the city took a 30-day audit or self-study of the bike lanes, and actually in that report, in the executive summary, the report said we didn't do a good enough job of listening to community voices. So that's one example. I guess another example could be White Stadium, where there's been unequivocal and consistent opposition to the changes of White Stadium, and the long-term change, which could be gentrification for a community that has loved Franklin Park for years.
By the way, the Franklin Park Coalition poll, which I'm sure you saw, said that only 1 out of 5 people polled actually opposed White Stadium. So there was a core of people who were unhappy. They apparently were a pretty small minority, no?
Yeah, I've seen that, and I've seen, again, other polls where the numbers are different. So
Speaking of bike lanes, by the way, we should be clear
just on White Stadium, the place, as you know, was kind of a dump and falling apart.
Decrepit.
So I mean,
we needed. Okay, thank you, Marjorie. We definitely need a new White Stadium. You'd be a fool to say we didn't. Colley Stadium in Lowell rebuilt for $8 million, for strictly used for Lowell kids. For Lowell kids, Lowell high school kids, whoever else plays there, Lowell Little League, I don't know. There's also a plan from the Emerald Necklace Conservancy for $30 million, same thing, for White Stadium, which it would be a reshaping of the stadium, but keeping the park, the trees that were cut down and so on, and giving access to the generations of families that have used the park continuing. And so and we all know that the city, we saw it, we're coming into tough fiscal times. Doesn't matter who the mayor is. We see it. And spending over $100 million, I've heard the latest estimates are $140 million on a stadium that primarily benefits a private entity that was done over vocal opposition in the neighborhoods. I think we have to rethink that.
Well, when you say primarily, I don't want to debate this now, but there's a huge benefit for the kids of Boston, too, is there not?
Oh, there definitely is, but I know we all think of, I think of White Stadium, I think of high school football. High school football can't use it till November when there's one game left.
But there's going to be much greater use by high school kids overall, despite that window, right?
Yeah, but you still want... When you could do a stadium for $8 million or $30 million, and the $30 million you could have split with philanthropy.
Can I clarify one thing for the record for people who are meeting you maybe for the first time or one of the first times? You don't oppose bike lanes. You just don't like, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't like how Wu did them. You wanted a pause. That's what you've said. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I just think in anything you do, and again, we'll go back out here. Yes, a pause and take the time to study, including working with public safety. I know firefighters, there's issues with ladders being off, not as close to the side of a building.
How do you feel about talk show hosts driving in bus lanes?
I'm going to leave that to your opinion.
Okay. All right. So can I get this, since you mentioned stadiums?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to, by the way, your father has been on the show a couple of times.
Yeah,
and he's been wonderful. And I am of the opinion.
He's a big fan. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. Not that it matters. I think many of the questions about your father and you are totally irrelevant. What's relevant is how your father's behavior would affect you as mayor. That's, I assume, you agree is relevant. So let's pick one example to start with. The soccer stadium that the family is building in Everett. There was a deal cut, from what I understand, with Everett for millions and millions of dollars. There was a requirement to be negotiations with the city of Boston. You have said, when asked about this on more than one occasion, you would recuse yourself had this arisen during your mayoralty. I don't understand how a mayor recuses him or herself from a business development that has huge consequences, financially and otherwise, for his or her city. So can you, for starters, explain what recusal means?
I will, and before I do that, I want to clarify something on the stadium. Actually, whoever the mayor is come January, they're not going to have any say on it.
Because it's going to be tied up.
It goes to binding arbitration, and the mayor won't have any say.
Okay, you're mayor right now during this process. How do you recuse yourself?
I recuse myself.
What does that mean? Who makes the decision for the city?
Chief financial officer, chief legal people.
They're constitutionally empowered?
That I could not answer, Jim, but I don't. That I could not answer. So,
but one last thing about the fairness issue. My understanding is millions, if not tens of millions, is going to Everett here in terms of what's on the table. Your family has offered, not you, $750,000 to Boston. The city keeps mentioning that when the casino was built in Everett, the city got $68 million. Forget recusal for a moment. Do you think the offer on the table for Boston is fair?
If I was mayor, I'd ask for more money than $750.
You would?
Yeah, I think so.
So you think the offer is unfair?
Well, I didn't say that. I would just have gone in and asked for more money.
You think the offer is unfair?
I said I'd go in and do what's best for the people of Boston, the citizens of Boston.
Okay, we're talking to Josh Craig.
That's what I want. It doesn't matter. whether it's my family or anyone, I am always going to prioritize the people of Boston. So however that looks, that's how it looks.
Well, just a couple of things about your family, because they are so famous here with the New England Patriots. And I know you're separate from them and you've gone in a different route. But, your father did donate to Donald Trump's campaign first time around. To his inaugural thing the first time around. Your stepmother is on the board of the Kennedy Center that Trump has just taken over. Your father arranged the get-together between Paul Weiss, the law firm that knuckled under to Donald Trump, catching, and basically extorting, some people would say, agreement from Paul Weiss. And then shortly after that, four partners from his law firm donated $1,000 to your campaign. So, that's unusual that that law firm partners would donate to campaigns. Should you keep that money?
Yeah, and I know that Brad Carr, and I want to get to the whole, do you mind, this might be a little bit longer of an answer, but Brad Carr, he was a huge donor and fundraiser for VP Harris in the recent election, and he gave $1,000. So, look, we all have people in our families, close family members or extended family members. I am sure most people that support Donald Trump and believe in Donald Trump and MAGA, okay? My family is no different. I love my dad. We agree on many things. We have disagreed on Donald Trump since day one. And in fact, I don't think he's got the morals or the ethics. He's morally and ethically bankrupt, in my opinion, and unfit to be president. And he's going after the most vulnerable. He's going after the most vulnerable people in our communities. And let's be clear, a lot of whom I have worked with for 35 years. And I will stand by them no matter who the president is, Donald Trump or anybody, to stand by them and their rights and to live the American dream. And, that's where I stand. That's where I've always stood. And moving forward, my dad is not running for mayor of Boston. I'm running for mayor of Boston, so I should be judged on my actions and my policies.
Is he involved in your campaign in any fashion, raising money or anything?
Who?
Is your father involved in your campaign, raising money, anything?
Look, he's a dad, right? So he sees his friend. Look, Dean Spanos from the San Diego Chargers, is hard money, $1,000. I'm sure he said, hey, my son's running. I do that for my kid. If my kid, I'm a Democrat, but if my kid was a Republican, I'd call
So would I,
Democrat.
by the way.
Yeah,
I'm not quarreling. I'm just asking.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the money thing. So you're not going to return the money from the Paul Weiss people, even though they kind of knuckled them. Okay.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you another money question. I know you said it's because they support Israel, but you've donated money to people that are, one of them doesn't like gay rights. Another one is, life begins at conception. These are people that authorized, thought it was okay, that they were not averse to the claims by Donald Trump that the election was stolen. And one of them is opposed to subsidized childcare, who says if you offer subsidized childcare, you're taking the purpose out of a man's life because now you have a basket of goodies for the mom. That's a really strange thing to say. So anyway, these people are not with your positions on LGBT.
99% of my, and again, Marjorie, as you said, those were given in a program. Look, as a Jewish American, I have friends and family in Israel. I wanted a strong Israel. It's the sole reason I donated to them. I did it. I told the thing, I can't donate to these people anymore. And I just want to clarify, when I was CEO of Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston, I was honored at PFLAG because we were the first Boys and Girls Club in the country to start a Queer Straight Alliance in our clubs. In two of our clubs. Secondly, we became, when I was running the Patriots Foundation, the first NFL team to be the lead sponsor of the National the National Gay Flag Football League National Tournament. When it was him, we've been a huge supporter ever since. We filmed ads. So, there was a sole reason I gave money to them. And
one more thing about this. What does it mean now to support Israel? Because we're up to, if you believe what you hear from Gaza, 50,000 people killed. There's a blockade. No medicine, no food.
Here's I'll give you my well, I want to make a statement, then I'll give you my personal, where I come down on it. You know, what's so painful is seeing the kids in wartime. It's horrible. It's horrible. And well, a lot of the children being neglected, you know, not getting their needs. It's horrible to see. Big picture, I've always been for a two-state solution. In fact, I guess now it's 2 springs ago, whenever the, I've always been a supporter of a two-state solution. When the Netanyahu, before October 7th, so that May, when there was the Supreme Court issues and there was a lot of civil, I remember talking to someone who's not familiar. I'm like, this is the worst thing, because they're just sitting ducks right now. Netanyahu, he's not doing what's best for Israel or anybody.
One last thing on this.
So
you
that's
mentioned,
that's.
You mentioned one last thing about these Congress people, though. The 3 Congress people in particular who you gave to, all of whom are pro-Israel. Your spokesperson said in a quote, and I think a Joan Bernanke column, right after that, Josh is a staunch advocate for LGBTQ rights and a woman's right to choose. All 3 of those people oppose LGBTQ rights, and all 3 oppose a woman's right to choose. So it was your position then, at least, that if you're pro-Israel, nothing else matters?
No, I didn't. I'll be frank with you. I didn't do enough research on them, and that's what it was. And then afterward, I told the guy, I'm like, I can't give to these people anymore. And I actually
Just one last thing, Josh Kraft, about Israel, because as you know, people are who are supporting Palestinians, not Hamas, are getting picked up by ICE and these foreign students and stuff. And there's a blockade going on now, so there's no medicines, no anesthesia, no food, no water. What does supporting Israel mean now? I mean, should they continue this blockade? Should they stop this blockade? Should they let the humanitarian forces go in there and make sure they're not murdered?
Well, look, again, I'm going to say humanitarianism, the children there should be the priority.
Yeah.
And the children that are suffering should be the priority. So whatever's going to bring relief to kids as soon as possible is what I support.
Okay, so that'd be ending the blockade.
Whatever's going to be, yes, whatever's going to bring.
Okay.
What's your website, by the way, before we forget? JoshForBoston.com.
Okay, JoshForBoston.com. Housing, I think, is at the top of your agenda. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us briefly what. No, I didn't mean it that way. That was not a criticism.
I'm just looking at the clock.
No. I say that
we
to
get
everybody.
time.
Tell us what you do on the housing front.
So we have a 3-point plan for housing. One. We want to jumpstart 26,000 units that are on the sideline that can't get moving, at permanent, ready to go at City Hall. Second, we have a workable rent control program that benefits renters and landlords and the city. It's a great public-private partnership. And then we want to create, with the tax revenues from the jump-started housing, we want to create a first-time home buyer program that also includes working families, because we have heard consistently from all the neighborhoods, people that are working, want to raise their kids in the family, can't afford to live in the city. The city.
I'm sorry. We've discussed your rent control program with the mayor. She calls it fake rent control. It is voluntary rent control. Hers would have been mandatory. It was frustrated by the legislature because reps in Fitchburg think they should be deciding what Boston is allowed to do or not. We are fairly critical, this legislature, in one particular instance, in particular. Question 1. Did you vote for question 1? That's the auditing of the legislature question.
No, shit, I'm going to be brutal. I think I did vote for question 1.
And right now, I'm sure you know the legislature is totally frustrating Auditor DiZoglio's efforts to audit them. Should they be audited by DiZoglio?
Yeah, look, I'm going to answer that by saying my focus is the city and what's going on. How you want to know about my rent control program, housing, schools, streets, public safety. Those are the things I'm focused on. That's a house, that's a statewide issue.
Okay, well, now let's go to housing for a second. One of the things also in your plan, I think, so that there'll be more development than you believe is the current rate, would lower the percentage of units in larger developments. I think it's more than 7. I may be wrong. They have to be affordable, from 20 to 13 I think that was what Marty Walsh had, and it was raised by Wu, if I'm right. How do you defend lowering the threshold of the number of units that a developer should build that are affordable to low and moderate income people?
Well, here's the big picture. 20% of nothing being built is nothing being built. And again, big picture, when you have a housing shortage, you need more housing. Availability equals affordability. And I actually think the IDP number is a fungible number.
What does IDP mean?
The inclusionary number for the, Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, I lost.
No, I'm so sorry.
No, I got it. I think it's a fungible number, and it really depends on the financial world we're living in. And right now, if things can't get built, nobody's getting housing. We need to get things built. But if the financial climate, if interest rates go down, now unfortunately, going back to what we talked about earlier, President Trump, fortunately, building materials are going to even be more pricey because of tariffs and the ports. But if there was a time when all of a sudden they all go down and interest rates go down, then I'd say, well, let's increase it because people. So to me, it's fungible depending on the times and how we can just get housing built.
So Josh Kraft, I read in Boston Magazine that you.
Look at the look on her face. This is going to be great.
Actually go through the security line at Gillette Stadium. I thought if your dad ran the place, he could kind of get you in the side door. Is that true?
I'd say 80. Lately, the last few years, no. But the first, how long is 94, 20, 30?
Yeah.
You guys.
Whatever. I think you're.
At the beginning times, I would go through the security line.
You were a suspicious young man at the time?
Yeah, for about 7, 8. Yeah. No, I don't know. I'd have people.
Dad
with
said,
me.
check him out. Get the wand out.
I have friends, and they'd be with me, and they go, can't you use your Josh card?
Exactly.
I think that's the question, is it not?
I started to do it a little later in life.
Yeah. Did you get good seats, I hope?
Yeah.
Good. That's good. Because what's the point, right? If you can't get the good seats.
Hey, before you go, is this fun?
Yeah.
Is it really fun, or you have to say it's fun?
No, look, as I said at the very beginning, I've spent my life doing community work, and what I've loved most about community work is people, meeting people, learning from people, especially people that might disagree with a lot of things I say and do. And I've had great relationships with people that we might disagree on 40% of things. And that's what a lot of this job is, meeting people, learning from people, hearing people. And that's what I like. Sure, there's, like going on a radio show, Just kidding. Nah,
I couldn't agree more, by the way. I'd feel exactly like
it's great. And I don't get to see your puppet version.
That's right.
I get to see the real version.
One last thing. The big story about the Patriots now, of course,
he's going to love this.
Your former coach, Bill Belichick. What do you think of the Jordon Hudson, Bill Belichick romance? Josh Kraft.
That's not my business.
It's not her business either. She talks about it every day. Josh Kraft, we hope you will come back soon.
Definitely
and
will be back.
We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
For Josh Kraft.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you listen to Boston Public Radio 3 hours a day, that's 15 hours a week, 60 hours a month, and 720 hours a year. Maybe it's time you pitched in. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. We have some more listener comments, and we so appreciate people who take the time to donate and then who take the time, in addition, to leave a little listener comment. Listen to this from Sandra in Wilmington, North Carolina. Relocated from Rhode Island to North Carolina and listen to Jim and Marjorie every day.
God.
Thank you for keeping us informed and welcoming us to express our opinions. And then Gail from Mattapoisett says they love the show, Jim, and they either listen live or by podcast, and they've been to the library twice, and they snuck in without tickets.
Speaking of sneaking in, look who's sneaking
That's
in right now.
Keith Lockhart is sneaking in. And they said that Gail from Mattapoisett also loves WCRB and that's our classical music station, and WCAI, which is down on Cape Cod in Falmouth. Worth every penny, says Gail about her donation. So again, the number's 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Yeah, and the great, whatever you call it, thank you gift today is this, and it really is great. It's one of Marjorie and my both our favorite things. 1-year ad-free subscription to the language learning app Babel. 14 different languages. You can do them all if you choose. $10 a month, $120 all at once. It's a fabulous deal. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Second to last day of the pledge drive. So if you're a procrastinator like me, now is the time to what's that word? Unprocrastinate yourself. Thank you very much.
Unprocrastinate yourself.
I think that's a word. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live from the library and streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We're joined by a guy, speaking of mayor, could this guy get elected in a landslide?
I think so.
I should say.
I think so.
At the library, exactly.
Boy.
By Keith Lockhart, he's the conductor of the Boston Pops, marking his 30th anniversary with this fabulous orchestra. Keith, congratulations. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you. You know, hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Once they start vetting me, it's going to go downhill fast.
Glad you beat me to it, exactly.
But you think about, I mean, you've got a great job, you know. Why not? I mean, it's like you got the dream job at 35.
Stuck in a dead-end job all these years.
Stuck in a dead-end job all these years. The only thing is I must get tired around Christmas time with all the
I do, but it's great. It's my favorite time, and still manages to be my favorite time of the year, even
we
with
love
the
it too.
workload.
But you know, when you're 35 years old, and John Williams had been the conductor before that, Arthur Fiedler, it must have been a little scary at the beginning.
I don't really remember a lot of the first couple of years.
Yeah, you don't.
The only part I remember was the part where I was on stage conducting. It was that part I recognized. The rest of my life had pretty much turned upside down, and I'd gotten a little tired of answering the big shoes question at that point, as in, got some mighty big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Let's talk about facial hair.
What do you think, by
Jim
the way? A person you know. First of all, let me say about this. He's talking about mine because he's making a face at me.
Yes.
Number one, almost nobody says anything. What does that mean? Don't like it. Number two,
we do like it.
A woman
Jim.
who you know well was on the show about 2 months ago, and she walks over to me, gives me a hug right before the segment starts, says, "I love your beard." And I said, "Really?" She goes, "No." So you hate it. Do you hate it?
That's no, I don't actually.
Well, that's a hell of a compliment.
I was just surprised. I was taken aback.
And what do you think of it? I'm sorry, Mr. Lockhart.
I think it's stylish.
Thank you.
I think
that is pathetic.
Words rarely fail me.
No, do you know, wait a second. When we started this show, which was almost 30 years ago, 26 years ago, to say we were atrocious is that fair?
We were
we
pretty
had
bad.
no idea what we were
bad.
doing. I'm not saying you were in the same boat, but following up on what Marjorie said, I mean this sincerely. Was there a moment you do remember where you said, I am exactly the right person? There was something that happened on July 4th, at Christmas time, during the summer, at Tanglewood. When was the moment you knew you were the right guy for the job?
Not a moment. I think it was more evolutionary than that. I think after a while, frankly, in some ways, you stop trying so hard. You stop getting so stressed out. You stop having everything be a crisis. I think if I had a word for my 35-year-old self, I'd say relax.
Yeah.
Because as you know, it doesn't make it any better. It just makes you flip from one thing to another. And now I feel pretty comfortable.
Do you get stressed? Do you get stressed? I would be. We talk about live performances in front of an audience. This is sort of a cozy audience. But I don't know how do you not get stressed or anxious or?
No, and that's how I decided. That's how I knew I was in the right business.
Yeah.
I don't get, I mean, of course, if I know of some impending disasters, of course, it informs my performance, but I don't get destructively nervous in that situation. Where I get stressed is driving in Boston.
Yeah.
Especially when foolish me thought for some reason that this was down at GBH, and I drove there first.
Did you really?
Then looked at my phone, and it's funny, as I pulled up to GBH, there's a huge sign that says Keith Lockhart, and I looked at my phone and said something I won't repeat in front of our cozy studio audience, and then drove quickly here.
But you know what I was curious about? I said this to Jim before the show, rather. You know, you hear somebody play the trumpet and they knock your socks off, and you say, "Wow," or the violin, whatever it is. But you know, what makes a conductor? It's not your baton moves necessarily. I don't know if it's your relationship with the orchestra, if it's figuring out what you're going to perform. What distinguishes? I mean, you're a great conductor. Anders Nelson's at the BSO, great conductor. What makes a great conductor?
Well, when I turn into one, I'll let you know. I would say it's about what kind of energy and synergy you can create for a great performance with a bunch of people. I mean, what's here is the conductor doesn't make any noise. You don't actually make the sound. But somebody has to supervise that performance. 80 people can't do that on their own. And how effectively you do that and how effectively you connect with musicians and with the intentions of the composer and with the audience.
So there's a relationship between you and the musicians.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just, wait, let me interrupt. Hey, by the way, when you say you don't make a sound, we've said this to you 1,000 times. When you turn to the audience, particularly in troubling times, which is almost all the time now. No, I'm serious. You connect. I say this behind your back, so it's not just to blow smoke you now. Your ability to connect with audience in word before your players do what they do is really epic, I should say. Yeah. And that's as important as connecting to the players, isn't it?
It is. I mean, especially in this job. You know, Andres does not have to turn around as much to the audience.
Correct.
But part of my job, particularly in an orchestra that I think of as essentially an outreach operation, is to connect the audience with the orchestra and to be the point of connection for all of that. And I'm really happy that I seem to be able to do that effectively. So.
And do you decide what the programs are going to be?
Depends on if you like them or not.
Okay.
If you hate them, no, I have
nothing
to do with it.
And do you have to hire like the arrangers and all that? Because it's not just conducting, right? You got a lot more to do than just getting up there and conducting.
There is a lot, and especially with something like the Boston Pops, I mean, we create a lot of things. We're not doing existing canon of works in a lot of situations.
Right.
So there's a lot of who's going to arrange this, how we want to make this particular patriotic statement, how will we make it. I do a lot of that, but I do have a staff who works with me and is available to edit and is available to say, no, I don't think that's a good idea, and I listen sometimes, and usually they're right. It's not by committee because ultimately it stops with me.
With
but
you.
There are people who are there who are both idea people, and then after that, they're the ones who go out and find the arrangers and connect the dots on the thing. So
was there ever a time when you chose someone for July 4th, or you chose someone to perform, and it was a big mistake?
Yes.
Really? Can you tell us?
No.
Oh.
Why don't we break early so we can spend a whole segment on what's coming up in the 30th anniversary season?
Okay. We're talking to Keith Lockhart. We're congratulating him on his 30th year as a great conductor for the spectacular Boston Pops. He's going to stay with us a little bit longer. We're taking a quick break to do some raising of money here. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
Okay, so here's the deal. Second to last day of pledge, and we'd like you to give at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Let me do my broken record self. The gift today is great, this Babel year subscription, this great language app. Even without it, you, I guess, care enough about what we're doing to be listening, and since you do, you should contribute to it. I mean, I think that's as direct as I can be, in whatever amount you can. If it's $10 a month or more, then you get the Babel thing if you want. And by the way, if you're not interested in it, give it to somebody. It's a great gift for a young person, I should say. And if you are a young person,
true.
you should, thank you very much.
Kids going to their junior year abroad or something.
Beautiful. And And what was it? Oh, and at the same time, the need could potentially be far greater, obviously, because of what's going on with Trump and the feds. We don't know yet, but we do know that in normal times, 70% of our budget comes from listener support. So be part of that 70+% if you're not already by calling 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Listen to this from Pam in Tiverton, Rhode Island. I love all the programming on GBH throughout the day, but recently I had to spend an hour on a treadmill 3 days a week for cardio rehab. The only thing that got me through the hour was listening to Jim and Marjorie on my phone. Isn't that a nice one?
Yes, it is very
And then
nice.
Noel in Dartmouth says, I love BPR. We watch PBS every night. We feel it's important for NPR to stay in business and get the news to us. And Catherine from Natick says we need public radio right now, and we are very, very grateful for it. So we really appreciate people that donate and take the time to make a listener comment. The number again, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We're actually talking to one of our favorite guests through the years. He is celebrating, no, it's true, despite the beard thing. He's celebrating his 30th anniversary with the Pops, and that, of course, would be Keith Lockhart, and we're continuing with him now.
We should have consulted Keith Lockhart on our music. Too late now, isn't it?
No, it's too late now. By the way, if you want to get tickets... What?
That's a good idea. I've got a couple of good ideas to come out. One of them is, why don't you use a Boston... We can get you licensed. Boston Pops recording.
Boston Pops
You look at your
recording.
colleague meeting you just broke the law or something? What'd
How
you do?
great would that be?
We would love that.
How great would
By
that
the way,
be?
speaking of the Pops, Keith's going to tell us what's coming up in the season. To get tickets to any of these things, which I should have said earlier, bostonpops.org. We're going to follow up on that. Is that offer real?
Yes.
Are you authorized to make that offer?
I am.
Whoa. Okay, then we take it.
I want the 12 days of Christmas at the Christmas season.
Okay, fine.
I mean, that arrangement is the most brilliant thing I've ever heard.
Now, there may be limits.
Okay.
So you're not going to want that in July. Maybe we just do one of the week, you know?
That's right. One of the week. That's right.
Okay, fine. Give us the highlights of this 30th season.
Well, we're already in it. As you
are.
know, we've already finished 1 week. We had Cynthia Erivo last week.
I have a friend who was there, said one of the best ever.
The energy, it was the loudest I've ever heard a crowd in Symphony Hall for anything.
Wow.
It was absolutely amazing. Then 2 Jaws, the film live with the orchestra in honor of its 50th, yikes, anniversary. And this week, we come back strong with Star Wars, The Story and Music, and a couple of college nights. But I really want to tell you about something that happens next week, the Music of the Cosmos program. Which features George Takei. It's Takei, not Takai, by the way, because he's very insistent on the point. So I've been practicing.
Takei.
No, not
the original.
Takai.
No, it is Takei.
Oh, it is Takei.
Takei.
Okay, whatever.
The original, boy, I'm glad I explained
She
that
just
away.
stuck her tongue out at me, and people are fine with that? Apparently you are. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's on radio.
Thank you. No, we're streaming, actually. But thank you anyway.
He's the original Lieutenant Sulu, of course, in Star Trek from so long ago, and he's going to be taking us through 60 years of Star Trek, all the various manifestations, the 23 different composers who have written for it.
Oh my God!
And on the first half, we're going to collaborate a little bit with the Museum of Science and show some exciting real science as opposed to the science fiction. And our host for that is going to be our own American hero, Sunita Williams.
Oh,
you did with her what we did with you. Did a Zoom with her from the space station
on
that was
on
one
the
of
stage on the 4th of July.
Oh, was 4th of July?
Yeah.
Oh my God, is she fabulous?
She is fabulous. She's been a friend for quite some time now. She grew up, as you know, in Needham and has an elementary school there named after her. And she got in touch with us years ago saying, gee, my sister and I would love to come to the concert.
I didn't
and we
know
said,
this.
of
Oh,
course.
great.
They said we've been fans forever. Turned out also my wife worked with her sister Dina down at Woods Hole.
That is great.
Anyway, they're kind of friends now, and to talk to her up there and to get emails from her while we've been discussing this program, emails from space. That's cool.
That is fabulous.
Just as a quick aside, one of the neatest things I saw when she was back on Earth was her 2 dogs reacting to seeing her after all that time in space. They were going, going crazy.
I assume they went, who are you?
No, they remembered her. They were so excited. The tail's going 90 miles an hour.
My kids don't recognize me when I'm gone for 2 weeks. So,
by the way, I know this is not part of what the Pops would say. How do you pronounce his last name?
Takei.
Takei, his politics on issues most of you care about are so good. it hurts. He is just spectacular.
He's a good guy and has been a really articulate spokesman for a lot of good causes.
So what else is happening in the 30th season, including, we want to get to June 6th, my friend.
Oh.
Do you know what happens on June 6th?
I'm not sure I'm going to get to June 6th. Yes, there is a special 30th anniversary celebration for some unnamed conductor.
Yes, indeed. That would be you. That's correct.
There's a wonderful singer-songwriter named Cody Fry, who is a huge internet sensation. We heard his stuff, fell in love with it. We really wanted him to join us. He's joining us on May 28th. And of course, we're closing the season, as usual, with our annual gospel night. This must be 33 or 32 years of gospel night, which is really one of the most raise the rafter moments we ever have in Symphony Hall.
How are you going to be on June 6th is the 30th anniversary concert.
6th
How are you going to be that night?
I'm probably going to be a mess.
No, really. I mean,
I'm serious because, I mean, you know, they've done these things, of course, for my distinguished predecessor, John Williams. But when John does that, he comes and they play his music to him, and people come out and speechify, and at least you can kind of hide in the, you know, front row and cover your head. But since I don't have any, you know, product, I mean, my product is what I do. So I've got to do this concert. So I don't know how I'm going to be. I'm really good at talking about music, not very good at talking about myself.
By the way, there are also, I have to say, two of, I think, the most talented people in Boston.
That's right.
Who are hosting something that night too, or do you know anything about that or no?
Jim and Marjorie?
That would be correct.
Yes.
That would be correct. Honoring Keith for...
He always-
Do you notice how he asked that like a question? Who are they?
Fits
You didn't want to get
himself
it
in.
wrong?
Actually, I know very little about it. I did happen to know that.
Well, I got
but
news for you. We know very
they've
little
been
about it,
keeping it
too.
a surprise up to the point,
Whoops,
of course,
did
where
I just
gotta-
blow something?
No.
Did I?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I knew that part.
Okay, now, two things I'd like to say critical of you. Is it okay on your 30th
please.
anniversary?
We'll go back
one,
to the beard
if I read
necessary.
one more story about you that refers to you as the beloved Keith Lockhart, like that's your birth name. In the New York Times, there's a story. Marsalis, Bernadette Peters are raving about him, and the New York Times journalist refers to you totally inappropriately as the beloved Keith Lockhart. Does that not trouble you?
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does that trouble you?
It does.
Okay, good.
Deeply, it sounds dead.
Okay. Now, second thing I'm upset about is every time you're here to introduce this part
here
of the
we go.
season. Well, I mean, it is what it is. We sort of get a promise that you're going to break the news about July 4th, and then every year you screw us. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. and so we have no idea, or you're just not telling us?
We have some idea.
And?
But the powers that be have decided we need to have all the ideas before we tell you who it is. But I'll tell you what, and I will say this on the air.
Okay, go ahead. Say it on the air.
If we find out at a time that I can do this when you guys are going to be on the air, I will call you and give you a scoop.
Oh,
You would?
great.
A
We would love
scoop.
that.
Day of the day of the release.
Fine. We accept that. Keep that tape. Thank you.
So does the big mistake you mentioned, you wouldn't tell us who it involved, did that involve 4th of July?
Big mistake.
You said you made
Yes.
a big
I asked you
choice
if you ever
that was
made
wrong.
any choices of performers that turned out to be bad.
Not this 4th of July.
Not just 4th of July, but was that a 4th of July in the past?
We have. You win some, you lose
You
some.
win some, you lose
we
some.
think we win more than we lose.
Yeah, okay. More than-
And you're not nervous. You say you love the people. By the way, to get tickets to any of these great shows, bostonpops.org. I don't know if any tickets left for the 6th, but I would be there on the 6th, the 30th anniversary concert itself, but any other thing else too. When you're doing the July, I'm sure you've asked this 1,000 times, so I feel like a fool even asking. When you are in front of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, some people who came in from Ohio to get in line in the first row at like 4 a.m., which is really odd. You're not nervous then?
It's a lot easier to talk to 100,000 people than it is to talk to 8 people.
Well, that actually probably has some truth.
And I'm much better in front of 500,000 people than I am at cocktail parties.
Yeah, I don't do well at cocktail parties either. I hate cocktail
That's
parties.
not true. You say that all the
Yeah,
time.
it was. How old is John Williams? He's in his 90s.
He's
now, right?
93.
And he's still composing.
He is still composing.
Yeah.
He's actually premiering many acts. There's a piano concerto being written for him that will premiere at Tanglewood this year, and John will be there, God willing, for the premiere of that, and he's doing finishing touches on it now. I mean, I don't think he's composing with the speed in which he was composing 25 years ago, but it's his life.
Yeah, no, it is. And when you think about how many movies you've gone to that are all John Williams music, there's so many of them.
And to go back to 1975 for Jaws and think, wow, that film is 50 years old. I was talking with a peer a chronological peer about that, saying, do you know what movies were 50 years old when Jaws came out and when we were in high school watching this movie? And she said, no, what? And I said, silent films. It's true.
Okay. So you still...
You're not as... I have to say, you're not as impressed by your own 30 years as we are. We're
or as
talking
Jim
about
is
this
impressed
morning.
by his own...
No, I'm serious. This is
illustrious
Don't
career.
you hate people who are impressed by themselves?
No, well, it's not. I don't mean by your... But it is a huge thing in a wildly popular orchestra, not just here, but around the country. And you seem to be taking it much more in stride than I would.
You know, I can't wait for 31.
Yeah, 30. You can wait for 31.
How long are you going to do this?
Till either A, no one wants me to do it anymore, or the majority don't want me to do it anymore, or B, until I have nothing left to give to the organization. And I hope that I know when that is.
That is a great answer.
Can I ask one question, by the way?
Certainly.
Yes, this is a gripe, because you had a couple of those there. Yeah. By the way, I tried to grow facial hair during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was a disaster.
Obviously,
it looks much, much better.
You have a lot of hair on your head, though.
What's your gripe?
How about you say I'm one of your favorite guests.
You are.
You've never asked me to guest host.
Oh, my God.
Would you really guest
Would you do
host?
it?
I would.
Would you?
There you go. There you go.
Jared Bowen and Andrea Cabral have that I ain't got.
That's right. Oh, we love that. Are you kidding? That would be awesome.
That would actually be huge. You think you could do it?
Yes, I do think.
Okay, I just want to be clear here.
You're my
up.
role model. I'm going to play all your old tapes.
Okay.
By the way, in 100%, that is going to happen.
Jim,
100%.
you should do a
it's gonna
trade. You should be able to go up there and stand on the stage at Symphony Hall with a baton.
Yeah, we've stood on the stage with him at Christmas time, and I've embarrassed myself every year. Thank you, but no thank you.
Oh,
Keith, we're really proud
Lockhart,
of you.
this
you
is
are
very
a treasure.
exciting.
Thank you, guys.
And we can't wait
I
till the
love your
3rd.
show. Love being here with you guys.
Well, we love having you. You're the best.
Our future guest host, here he is.
And celebrating 30 years of the beloved Keith Lockhart. It's great to see you, Keith.
We have been speaking with Keith Lockhart, conductor of the Boston Pops, celebrating his 30th anniversary with the Boston Symphony, with the Boston Pops, rather. For more information, you go to bso.org/pops. To get tickets for this great season coming up, bso.org/pops. Thank you very much, Keith Lockhart.
He's going to co-host this show.
He is. I think it's great.
We're going to have a little competition to see who gets him. You know what I mean?
We'll toss a coin, Jim.
Okay.
We'll toss a coin. I choose heads. Coming up after the 1 o'clock news, CNN's chief national correspondent, John King. He's going to talk about Trump's $40 million plane, a gift to him from Qatar, and a bunch of other stuff coming out of Washington. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library. It's streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
The GBH Spring Membership Drive ends tomorrow. If you've yet to give, please make your contribution now. Giving right now, it's going to help pay for your Boston Public Radio listening in these months ahead, and you'll help wrap up the fund drive tomorrow. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424. I'm Zach Finn, and I'm here with Melissa Jones.
We're looking to wrap up this hour on track, so we're looking to receive 10 more contributions in the next 4 minutes. We can do that. We absolutely can do that with your participation right now. Please give at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Information with a dose of humor. That's why you listen to Boston Public Radio. Whether Jim and Marjorie keep you company on your lunch break, or maybe you're just running around doing some errands, they talk about the issues that matter to you. So please support local conversations like this by giving right now. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Support GBH at $10 a month and receive a 1-year ad-free subscription to that wonderful language learning app, Babel. I love Babel. This will allow you to study one language or multiple languages. We were just talking, Zach and I, that would make you a polyglot. Who doesn't want to be a polyglot? You actually can get up to 14 languages through Babel. That's where the polyglot comes in. Sign up as a sustaining member right now at gbh.org or, gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424. Do that before 7 o'clock tonight and make sure you can get your access to Babel right now. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And to stay on track, we are looking for 7 more people to give in about the next 3 minutes. Hey, it's doable, and GBH NPR, you already know this, they play a vital role in delivering trustworthy news that you can rely on. And by giving right now, you help ensure that quality journalism prevails over misinformation. And how important is that? So make your contribution now. We're looking for 7 more people to give in the next 3 minutes. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
NPR and GBH exist because of listener support. It's always been that way. Your support has never been more important as we face unprecedented attacks to diminish our service. If you can, please help ensure our future by giving now. Start a sustaining membership, increase your monthly gift, or make an additional gift. Every bit helps. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Please support GBH by becoming a monthly sustainer. This is a great way to support the station. Just takes a few minutes to set up. Consider starting at $10 or $15 a month. It's automatically deducted from your bank account or your credit card, and then you'll be set up in no time. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
The news has been complicated and intense over the past few months. It's going to keep going that way, and you look to GBH to keep you informed and knowing what's happening. It's the next to last day of our spring membership drive. So if you've been meaning to give but you haven't yet, please do so now. We're looking for 4 more people in just these last couple of minutes together. You can make that happen when you take time to participate, take action by making your contribution right now. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424. $10 a month right now will get you that fantastic Babel 1-year subscription to learn all kinds of wonderful languages. And thank you so much for your support in GBH right now.
Support for GBH comes from you and MIT Federal Credit Union, providing personal loan options to help consolidate debt, fund home improvements, and more. Applications at mitfcu.org. Federally insured by NCUA. And Boston Ballet, presenting Spring Experience, a program that showcases the range and beauty of ballet today, featuring works by Mikko Niskanen and Yuri Killian, opening May 15th at Citizens Opera House. Tickets at bostonballet.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on Hour 3 of Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library. We talk with CNN's chief national correspondent, John King, about why it matters that Donald Trump is so willing to accept a free $400 million flying palace from Qatari's royal family, plus his plan, that would be Trump's, to suspend the Constitution.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then we'll end today's show talking about HOV lanes and you, as Texas legislators weigh whether or not pregnant women ought to count as 2 passengers. We're really here, though, to talk about ways to cheat the system, including blow-up dolls and mannequins. And would you consider having a kid if it means a quicker commute to work? Or do you think of HOV lanes like bus lanes where the rules are really more of a suggestion? Weighing next in the 3rd hour of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump says he will order the end of U.S. sanctions on Syria. There is a new government that will hopefully succeed in stabilizing the country and keeping peace, Trump said as he was addressing an investors' forum in Riyadh today. Trump says Secretary of State Marco Rubio will meet with his Syrian counterpart later this week. The president himself is expected to briefly meet Syrian leader Ahmed al-Shara on Wednesday. Shara was once a member of al-Qaeda. Last year, he helped lead the rebellion that overthrew the long-ruling Assad regime. Trump received a warm welcome when he arrived in Saudi Arabia, the first stop on his trip to the Middle East. The president then announced a series of U.S. business deals with Saudi Arabia in what the White House said added up to a $600 billion investment in the United States. They include $142 billion in arms deals from more than a dozen U.S. firms and $80 billion in tech investments from Google, Oracle, Salesforce, Uber, and Saudi companies in both countries. A day after the British Prime Minister announced a tightening of his country's immigration rules, members of his own center-left party are criticizing him, not for his policy, but for his language. NPR's Lauren Frayer has more from London.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer said immigration makes Britain an island of strangers. That echoes an infamous 1968 speech by Enoch Powell, a former lawmaker denounced as racist for saying immigration made Britons strangers in their own country. Starmer's office rejects the comparison, but many of his own lawmakers are criticizing him for it. Kevin Maguire is an editor at the left-wing Daily Mirror newspaper and spoke on local TV.
Now when he wants to accuse the Conservative Party or Reform of racism and bigotry, they will be able to turn around and say, what about you?
That's a reference to the far-right anti-immigrant Reform Party, which made gains in local elections here this month. Lauren Frayer, NPR News, London.
The CEO of United Health Group is stepping down as the massive healthcare conglomerate faces mounting business problems. More from NPR's Maria Aspen.
United Health Group CEO Andrew Whitty has presided over a terrible year for his company and for its industry of for-profit healthcare. His massive conglomerate owns United Healthcare, the largest U.S. health insurer, whose CEO was shot in Manhattan last year. The killing sparked a consumer backlash against high costs and denied claims of American healthcare. But United Health has also been facing mounting financial problems, especially in its Medicare business, as the senior citizens it insures seek more medical care than expected. United Health said Whitty is resigning for personal reasons. He was replaced by the company's former CEO and current chairman, Stephen J. Hemsley. Maria Aspen, NPR News, New York.
You're listening to NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The fight between the Trump administration and Harvard continues, with the administration announcing nearly $500 million in additional cuts to the university's federal funding today. New cuts come as Republicans in Washington want to hike the endowment tax on Harvard and other wealthy private colleges. From our higher ed desk, GBH's Kirk Carapezza reports that local schools are pushing back.
The proposal from House Republicans would impose a tiered tax on schools like Harvard, MIT, Wellesley, and Smith, raising the current 1.4% tax on investment income to as high as 21%. The Association of Independent Colleges and Universities of Massachusetts is calling the plan punitive and warning it would hurt students and families and do little to improve access and affordability. Association President Rob McCarran says it would be devastating for New England schools that are already facing steep cuts to federal research funding. Kirk Carapezza, GBH News.
You know summer's getting close when the first great white shark of the season is confirmed in Massachusetts waters, the New England Aquarium says on Sunday, May 11th, Mother's Day. A witness noticed a pool of blood off Smith's Point in Mattocket on the west end of Nantucket. A person then saw a seal swimming toward the beach with a shark following behind, and since then an adjunct scientist at the aquarium examined photos of the seal's wounds and did confirm that the bite did come from a white shark. He says this is the time of year when people should be shark smart, meaning to be aware of sharks' presence in shallow waters, avoiding areas where seals are present or schools of fish are visible. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Keith Lockhart, I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. A couple of quick programming notes. We'll be back here today, tomorrow and on Friday. The Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Campbell, joins us May 21st from 1 to 2. And the Mayor, Michelle Wu, joins us May 28th from noon to 1 to take our questions and yours. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. We're joined on Zoom by CNN's chief national correspondent. That'd be John King. Good afternoon, John.
Happy Tuesday from rainy Washington, D.C.
Oh, I'm
Is
so
it
sorry.
raining?
It's beautiful
it's
here.
It's gorgeous here. Isn't that so weird? Hey, you don't have to go that far and the weather's totally different.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's really stunning.
Okay.
There are a lot of people who think Washington's a lot farther away than you're saying it is.
Yeah, well,
but I'm
that's
bummed.
an excellent
Thank you
point.
very much.
So John King, the president is facing a lot of criticism about this $400 million plane that he wants to take from Qatar or Qatar, whichever way you want to say it, and the government of Qatar has been supportive of Hamas. So this is kind of a mess, I think.
Supportive of bad actors around the world, found to be a corrupt player in other governments around the world. Its women have no rights. Their economy is built largely on Filipino and Bangladeshi, essentially forced slave labor. And that's, and the American president thinks it's great to take a gift from them. My test on this one always is, and I'm a broken record, is for the Trump supporters out there, or for anyone out there who thinks this is a good idea, just close your eyes and say, imagine if Hillary Clinton had done this, or if Barack Obama had done this. The impeachment proceedings would have started yesterday in the Republican House. There are very few Republicans kind of mumbling under their breath or saying, gee, I need to see the paperwork. But most of them are just, it's the world we live in. They have just lost their intellectual or ideological identity. And it's all about Trump. And if he says it's okay, they kind of shrug because they don't want to deal with it. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's an attempt to buy influence of the United States government. Forget his name's Donald Trump. Forget he's a Republican. Just think of this as an average citizen. That if somebody walked up to Governor Healy today, or Governor Romney before that, again, this is not a partisan thing, and said, hey, here's a $400 million gift, no strings attached, right. I don't want anything. Anybody out there believe that? Anybody?
Well, people are calling it a bribe, and that's what it looks like to me.
It's trying to curry favor. Again, we don't, we haven't seen any, we have no evidence that there's a quid pro quo involved here. So it's our job to be fair. And to say what we say. The ethics rules for past presidents have been pretty clear. The rules about what a public official, including the president, and sometimes especially the president, can accept as a gift are pretty clear. This president has a pretty good history of saying, I don't really care what the rules say, I'll do what I want. And the idea that this is already headed to the Trump Presidential Library, and the fact that there's reporting that the plane's actually been in San Antonio at an Air Force, at a base at the airport, for quite some time, meaning so even before this was public, it was in the works. There's no evidence of a bribe. However, we do know, again, look at investigations in France, look at investigations in the UK about, the government of Qatar using its influence to try to buy things. So they have a track record of this, which should make you suspicious. There's a lot of smoke. We have no evidence of a fire yet, but boy, there's a lot of smoke.
Well, I just had one more thing. For a guy whose primary economic policy is to rebuild strength for American-based companies, it's also a big-time middle finger to an American company that was having a hard enough time already, Boeing. And so, it's sort of on every angle, it's antithetical to what he suggests he's all about. And speaking of that, John, Marjorie and I always admit that economics is not our strong suit. I know some listeners are saying, what is your strong suit? Well, we'll leave that for another day. It seems to me from afar, Trump imposed very high tariffs on China and then withdrew very high tariffs on China. End of story. Did Trump win anything that I am missing, John King?
No. Look, there's an inflation report out today that says inflation is actually down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the impact of tariffs at least was not there as a lot of economists expected in the last couple of months. So Trump may have escaped one on here. We'll see what happens. Sometimes these are lagging indicators. So let's see what happens next month and the month after and the month after. However, they are spinning this as they got China to the table and that they have people at the table. He said that these tariffs are absolutely necessary. He said that these tariffs would go into place. He said the United States would make billions, if not trillions, off these tariffs. It doesn't quite work that way, but that's what he said. And then he got a lot of market turmoil, a lot of CEOs coming in, and a lot of blowback for telling, well, Americans can just have $2 instead of $5. Sorry, young ladies, sorry, girls, Christmas is not going to be as great this year. He got a lot of blowback for that, and there was a lot of evidence that it was hurting the economy and hurting Republicans and then hurting him. And he backed off. There's no question. He retreated. What they have agreed to do now is far less than what they said they were going to do. And every time they do this, it's not the first time. China's obviously a huge, much bigger economic player than doing it with anyone else so far. Every time they do it, they say, well, this is how we planned it all along. It's kind of like, saying, the Celtics went into Madison Square Garden to lose last night. That was the plan.
Yeah.
You know, before we leave this topic, I don't know if you get to watch your colleague Jake Tapper in the afternoon, but he's done a great series that I think he does almost, well, I don't watch every day, but when I can, he has a small business person from around the country. And I was telling Marjorie, he had a woman who owns a coffee shop in Sandwich. What's the name of the place? You go there.
Snowy Owl.
Snowy Owl. She was great, by the way.
It's a great coffee shop.
And she was terrific.
On Route 6A.
And the point is made that part of the argument for these tariffs, which is not proven out, is, when we make buying from overseas too expensive, it's going to encourage manufacturing here. And an interesting conversation came up yesterday in the small business discussion with this woman, and I apologize for forgetting her name, from the Snowy Owl and Sandwich on the Cape, was, we don't grow beans in this country except an infinitesimally small percentage in Hawaii. So in a sane world, wouldn't a president who believes in tariffs exempt things like coffee businesses, which can't bring manufacturing home, even if they want to? Is that a sane position I'm advancing, or no?
No, you're advancing not only a sane position, you're advancing the position of what used to be the overwhelming majority position of the free market Republican Party. That we should have free markets, except in certain circumstances. And so, again, are 145% tariffs or 300% tariffs the right way to do it? I'm not smart enough. Is China an unfair player in the global trading system? Yes. Should American presidents stand up to China and demand it be a more fair player in the global trading system? Yes. And so, but back to your point. So there are some places where being tough, and maybe even including tariffs, I'll leave it to smarter people than I am, are the right things to do. There's certainly, we've talked about this before, if your goal is to have more American manufacturing, amen. That's a good goal. However, is it reasonable? Are we going to do it? Are companies going to say we can build those products in America? But we've talked about this in the context of Canadian timber.
Yeah.
There are certain timber for houses that you can't grow in America. It's just the climate doesn't allow it. The soil, the geography doesn't allow it. And we don't grow a lot of coffee beans. The small businesswoman is correct. I don't see Donald Trump creating a lot of coffee farms in America over the next 4 years. Because we don't have the climate for it and a whole bunch of other things. So that's why this whole blanket, everybody tariffs sweeping across the board, we're going to punish everybody. It's a power reflex. It's not an economic argument.
By the way, you need a picture on your wall over your right shoulder, John. I don't mean to give you decorating.
I just moved back in after a few months of repairs.
Okay.
The house is pretty barren right now.
Okay.
I need some decorating advice, Marjorie.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you guys are good at.
I would not ask Mr. Browdy, who's got mushrooms growing in the back of his car.
I used to have mushrooms growing in my car.
It smells like sour milk.
That's my old car.
It's a tough situation there in the Jim Browdy
into
car.
my trust, except for the Philly stuff.
Thank you.
But John King, we talked earlier today with our listeners about ICE around Massachusetts. People are getting hauled off the streets. The ICE people are wearing masks. There's some scary situations going on. People are very upset about it. Meanwhile, and a lot of these people, they did come over the border illegally, but they've not committed any crimes in their home country, or they've not committed crimes here besides coming over the border illegally. But meanwhile, we have the President of the United States, who's approving of all this, obviously, fast-tracking these white South Africans to come to the United States. I don't think he's telling the truth about the problems they're facing in South Africa. What's the buzz about this?
He's certainly exaggerating what is happening in South Africa. I do think there are some occasions and some incidents where you could look at the South African government and think that it should be more tolerant of its minority citizens, the white citizens, the former citizens. The track record of the current government is not perfect. However, again, you want to step back into context. Is this the way to do it? This is in part Elon Musk, who happens to be of South African descent, who has the president's ear on this issue, who is not always in the same galaxy as facts. The facts, sometimes I think one of those spaceships sometimes takes him to a place where he has his own alternative facts, I guess we called that in the first Trump administration. And so these things happen. The other issue, the broader immigration crackdown, look, Donald Trump was elected to be tougher on immigration. He was elected to improve border security and to deal with what a lot of Americans think is a illegal immigration, undocumented problem. We've talked about this before. The question is, how are you going to do it? What are your priorities in doing it? when we get 6 months in and a year in and 2 years in, when people have to vote and Republican members of Congress are on the ballot, not Donald Trump, what do they think about the implementation of that? And so I do think when you see white South Africaners being welcomed and Americans, not all of them criminals, being deported, some of them veterans being deported, that'll be part of the conversation in the next campaign. They're also expanding this in many ways. 20 states, Democratic-run states, just filed suit today challenging the administration's position that if a state doesn't help with this tougher immigration roundup, the federal government will cut its grants for a lot of different issues, not just immigration issues. And in the House Republican budget they're debating, one of the ways they're trying to save money in the Medicaid program is if a state gives Medicaid services to undocumented immigrants, the Republican budget as proposed as of today would then cut that state's federal Medicaid funding, take a percentage of it away to penalize them for doing that. So this immigration debate is everywhere. It was a long answer to your question and probably got off topic a little bit, but my point is that everywhere you look, a piece of this immigration debate is coming up, not just at what is ICE doing today, but as agencies get funding priorities and things, and the federal government tries to tell states what to do and force states to cooperate, this is going to be, it was a big issue for the president in the last election, and you can be sure as all this plays out, it'll be a big issue in the next one.
Yeah, before we take a break, just one addition to this that Marjorie and I talked about this morning. These South African white people were fast-tracked. People in Afghanistan who risked their lives and continue to risk their lives, who were given refugee status, they helped us during the war, and that's why they're at risk.
They're gone.
Are still sitting there.
They're going to be gone this
while
summer.
We're fast, and they're not being allowed into the country.
They're taking away the status for some who actually are here, Jim, too. In addition to leaving people over there waiting, and the Biden administration should bear some of that as well.
I agree.
And so does the Trump administration now. He's in power now, but there are some who are actually already here, who are being told their temporary status is at risk.
No incentive to ever help our troops in anything ever again. We got to take a break. I'm sorry.
We got to take a quick break because it's pledge time, but we're going to talk with John King as soon as we get done with this quick break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support, so please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
I'm going to beat Marjorie to it. The first one she's going to read or would have read is Victoria from Arlington. I listen to Jim and Marjorie every day. Marjorie is great. Jim is okay, too.
How about the second one?
Thank you, Victor. I didn't read the second one.
Beverly from Plymouth. My husband is jealous of Marjorie and Jim. I won't let him talk when they are on.
That is fabulous.
That's
I love
very
that.
good.
In any case, second to last day meeting on our show. It's a half hour plus one show of pledge. And we need you now more than ever. You know exactly why. And we hope you'll do whatever you can. And by the way, if you're in very good financial shape while other people are suffering or scared financially, give a little bit more, and then maybe when you're in need at some point, as we all tend to be, they'll do the same thing for you. So give whatever you can and really do it. And you get, for $10 a month, $120 all at once, you can get this 1-year ad-free subscription. It's great language learning app, Babel, 14 languages, etc. But again, it's not the gift. If you value what we do, and that means all of our colleagues, and I would argue if you value what we did 6 months ago, you hopefully value what we do many times more now for fairly obvious reasons. Do what you can do to support the work that our wonderful colleagues do by calling 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
You know, we have some great comments. Here's Mark in Fairhaven. I listen to Jim and Marjorie every day. It's just me and the dogs. The pit bull seems to react to Marjorie's voice when she gets animated about something. I never call in, but I figured I would let you know I'm out here. Plus, Babel would be useful if Trump gets his third term and I have to leave the country. Keep up the good work. And then Mrs. Liz from Niantic, Connecticut. I don't know if her mother, that Rosella, that she's mentioned to me, used to be the librarian for years.
Oh, my God.
At the Boston Herald. But if it is, your mother was a wonderful person. Liz says, my mother, Rosella, would be so proud of you, Marjorie, and so upset with what's going on in America. I hope that is the daughter of Rosella, who is a wonderful woman that worked at the Boston Public Library, related to Steve Kirchin,
Oh,
who was
really?
a great reporter at the Boston Globe for
A
years.
couple of Pulitzer Prizes.
That's
along
right.
the way, yeah.
Judith in North Falmouth says, I believe in the free press and freedom of speech. Community journalism is precious and needed for a thriving democracy. Eleanor in Chestnut Hill says public radio and TV are very important. And they are very important, and they really matter, not just here, but all across the country. Sometimes the only radio station people get is an NPR station in a far-flung part of America. So 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. And thank you very much for taking the time to give.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live from the library, stream at youtube.com/GBH. And by the way, we're now continuing our discussion with a local boy who probably gets as much positive feedback from our audience as any guest we have. That, of course, is CNN's chief national correspondent. We're really lucky to have him, John King.
Yeah, John.
A quick note from John from Dorchester to anyone out there who's not sure they should participate in the pledge drive or not. This is John from Dorchester's free therapy, and he really needs it because of what he does for a living. And so, if you got $1, if you got $10, if you got $100, please, it would be helpful. And I'm not just saying that. I practice what I preach. I got 2 letters this year about my donations because I did it twice and I didn't do it in one. I'm so idiotic. I didn't do it in one account. I did it in 2. So
that's why we love you, John
Thank you very
King.
much, John. And we do get endless, wonderful texts about you during the show every time you're on. But I want to ask you about Trump's so-called big beautiful bill. To get the money together to give tax breaks that Trump has talked about. The Republicans have proposed some cuts in Medicaid. I was a little heartened to see Josh Hawley, who is a kind of a conservative guy and a Trump guy, worried about, he's a senator from Missouri, of course, worried about Medicaid cuts, because I don't know if that's because a lot of people in Missouri are on Medicaid or his mother's in a nursing home or what, but that was a little chink in the armor.
I do think if you look as a state as big and complicated as Missouri, which when I started covering national politics used to be competitive. I remember going there, campaigning with Democrats who thought they could win the state. Those days are gone. But Josh Hawley, number one, he runs statewide in a state where he does need to think about everything and everybody. Number two, he has become, the Republican Party, we talk about this a lot, Trump has completely repopulated and changed the Republican Party. And Josh Hawley is like Trump in many ways, but also sees himself as more of a populist. Yes. More of a genuine populist, I guess is the way I would put it. I'm not here to endorse Josh Hawley, but he sometimes goes off on an interesting way and raises questions about Trumpism, or just forget Trump for a minute, about the party's direction. And this is one where he has said, I have a number of questions about what the House Republicans are doing. We can, again, they all say, you can find some savings, the waste, fraud, or abuse, or maybe a work requirement, or maybe other things. But he has sounded the alarm. And look, number one, the first challenge is to get this through the House, where you've had a bunch of moderates in the battleground districts in the midterm elections saying, be careful here. They want a smaller number of cuts. They also want other things in the tax bill. But I do think you have a fascinating dynamic playing out that as they try to move what you call the big, beautiful bill that Trump wants, the challenges are a little different in both the House and the Senate, but the challenges are also very real in both the House and the Senate for the Republicans. And Medicaid is one of the biggest challenges.
And the difficulty of their dollar savings task, which I think they were talking about as big as $1.5 trillion, which I think is a quarter of the budget, give or take something, is not only are his tax cuts being renewed part of this thing, at least a few of his campaign promises, not taxing overtime, or at least some degree of that, not taxing tips. I was stunned because those are pretty expensive. So, but obviously it was something that helped get him elected. What I don't understand, and maybe it's because I don't understand the system about the Congressional Budget Office or whatever, why can't they just lie like Trump always does and say the trickle-down impact of all these tax cuts is going to be so great for the economy that it's going to be revenue neutral. It's not going to cost us anything. Why? No, I don't mean that facetiously, John. Why aren't they doing that? Or why isn't Trump doing that at least?
You do have both the Office of Management and Budget, which is the executive branch, which is supposed to be a true green eye shade counter and not do everything the president wants anyway. They're supposed to be fair,
But that's the Project 2025 guy, Russell Vought, right?
Right.
Yeah,
They are under his control. But then you have the Congressional Budget Office, which has tended to be, a more nonpartisan. There is nothing in Washington that doesn't have some partisan tint to it. And then you also have to remember, the Democrats don't have any power in terms of their votes in either the House or the Senate, but they do have people who've been around a long time, and they can ask for analysis of these congressional offers. They can't do much with it, but they can at least wave the papers around. And then you have all the think tanks out there that are going to look at this. And you have every state government that knows, one of the things that's going to happen here, if they can get a version of this big, beautiful bill through, is they're going to shift a lot of healthcare costs and a lot of, maybe even a lot of disaster relief costs and a lot of other costs to the states. That's one of the ways they're trying to save money in Washington. Look, the math just doesn't work, Jim. You mentioned, you cannot cut that much federal spending, especially while you're promising to raise money, at least keep the Pentagon even or go up at the Pentagon. You can't do it without touching Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. There's just impossible. You could shut down every other federal program and you would not meet your goal. And so they're looking in the Department of Education, they're looking in the Department of Labor, but the money is in Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security. And so Medicaid is the bigger target right now for cuts. And I think you're going to watch this one play out. When you mention overtime and tips, they've had to tell Trump, we'll see if it's like this at the end, he wanted those made permanent. He also wanted his tax cuts made permanent. They are extending them. And the overtime and the tips will be temporary. It'll be just like the Trump tax cuts. It'll be in for a period of years, because otherwise that math you're talking about explodes the deficit. You just can't do it.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day that was looking for a place for her parents, and she was talking about some of these assisted living places being $7,000, $10,000, like $12,000 a month, and nursing homes are paid for by people that don't have that kind of money by Medicaid. Nursing homes are already in difficult shape. So I think I don't know. I think it's going to be tough to be given tax breaks to wealthy people while your parents or your grandparents.
Well, overtime and tips, though, are not just wealthy people, and I think far more seductive, don't you think, to the population? In any case.
I don't know. I think the nursing home thing is huge. I could be wrong. I mean, what do you think?
I think you're both right in the sense that if you are a working class American, and the president did the tip thing mainly for Nevada, but his base has a lot of working class. Again, he's repopulated the Republican Party with a lot of people who used to be Democrats when I started doing this for a living 40 years ago. And even 20 years ago, we're still Democrats, maybe even 15 years ago. That's candy, and it's appealing. I don't mean to say that in a pejorative way. Those people deserve some help. They deserve somebody who's fighting for them. Is that the way to do it? Above my pay grade. But I do think so in the short term, if all of a sudden your overtime's not being taxed or your tips aren't being taxed, you're going to say thank you, Donald Trump.
Right.
Just like if his name's on the stimulus check, you're going to say thank you, Donald Trump. I do think, but then, so Jim's right there, but then Marjorie, you get to the bigger point that in 2 years, when you're actually thinking about how is my entire life, and if that life includes caring for aging parents or an aging partner, well, then you're factoring in all those other things too. What happened, or if you have a child with special needs, or your family, who gets something through Medicaid or some Medicare or Social Security program. So over time, your math is your math, right? So you benefited over here, but if you're suffering over here, this is the reason the Democrats lost the last election. The cost of living increase after the COVID pandemic. People were doing their total math. It was not about, do I like this Biden policy or do I like Kamala Harris here? They were doing their math and they were saying, I want change. I want change. I need something different. I want change.
John, before you go,
and that's where we'll be in 2 years and 4 years. People are not stupid. They can do their entire budget.
We only have 30 seconds left. We're going to talk HOV lanes with our listeners when we come back, because Texas is now saying that if you're pregnant, you're two people, so you can go in the HOV lane. When you get off at Logan and are about to go visit family and friends in Dorchester, you ever tempted on 93 South to go in the HOV lane by yourself?
Never. I have never done it. I swear to God, I've never done it. I'm tempted to swim. I think it will be faster.
It's a good answer, John. Hope you get a picture on the wall. It's great to see you. Talk to you soon.
Thanks,
you,
John.
Be well. John King.
We've been speaking with CNN's chief national correspondent, John King. It is true, everybody loves him. They love to hear him talk. Coming up after a quick break, the HOV lane and you, as Jim just mentioned, a proposed law in Texas that says even pregnant women can drive in the high occupancy vehicle lane. Okay, what would you do to get to work earlier? assuming you're not pregnant, have you thought about sneaking into the HOV lane? Have you snuck into the HOV lane? Have you put a mannequin in your front seat and tried to sneak in, or a dog in your front seat and claimed it was your imaginary friend? You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH Live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If you listen to Boston Public Radio 3 hours a day, that's 15 hours a week, 60 hours a month, and 720 hours a year. Maybe it's time you pitched in. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
Okay, we mentioned it several times today. We have this great gift at 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. That would be the subscription to Babel. That's a great program that helps you learn languages. There are 14 languages to choose from. A lot of people want to learn Spanish, want to learn French. They want to go to a vacation in a different country. You want to be able to ask the basic questions. So it's a really effective learning tool. It's only available till 7 o'clock tonight, though. So if you're interested, this will not be available for the rest of the drive, which ends tomorrow. So the number again, I want to read a couple of things too. I'll give you the number anyway, 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. This is from Judith in North Falmouth. I believe in a free press and freedom of speech. Community journalism is precious and needed for a thriving democracy. That is such a great point. One of the crises we've had, right, is local newspapers that don't function anymore. And we are a local news organization here in Boston. So I'm glad Judith thinks that we're worth something. And listen to this. Carol from Winchester says, I am honored to be a member at GBH. It's so important to have trustworthy news, and I can trust GBH to do that. So thank you very much to Carol, Eleanor, Sharon, Judith, Marjorie, Mark, Frankie, Liz, all these people that have taken the time to donate today and to make comments. So 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Yeah, and you sort of have, this is the hard part to say, but you sort of do have an obligation, at least Marjorie and I think, that if you're benefiting from the work our colleagues do, you get something from it, then you should contribute what you can. I mean, it's sort of obvious to me. So do it now, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. We have no idea what's happening on the federal level. The only thing we do know is Trump is hell-bent on defunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which means all NPR and all PBS. And when we say, obviously the smaller stations that are more dependent on federal funding will be the most damaged, we still get a very significant chunk of our money. And a lot of programs and a lot of people would suffer a lot, and so would the product we are lucky enough to bring to you if these cuts went through. So let's, in anticipation of this, let's do all we can now to fully fund this operation. And you do it by simply calling 888-897-9424 or by going to gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie and Jim Brett, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I'm going to set this up. You should call soon because we have not much time, and this is a good one. Renting the show with the HOV lane, designated for cars carrying 2+ people, whatever the plus means, because I really do not know if that means 2 is okay or more than 2 plus is okay, regardless. An Uber counts, your kid in the back seat counts, maybe soon in the bastion of human rights, that's Texas. Your unborn fetus would count too, that's real. A new bill in Texas makes the case that mothers, particularly pregnant women, not sure about non-pregnant women, should be able to use the HOV lane, drawing attention to their fetal personhood laws. So we're opening the lines to you, not about motherhood, but about the HOV lanes here. When you're stuck in traffic, for example, on 93, and you take a look at the wide open carpool lane, don't you think about scooting on over?
Yes.
Have you ever done it?
No.
And what have you done to convince the statey watching over you that there actually is someone else in the car with you?
That's the problem.
Even though they don't see it. 877-301-8970 is the number. You ever done it?
No.
Have you really never done it?
Because the state troopers are sitting there.
And by the way, would you not do it in a second if you knew that they weren't there?
If I thought that they weren't there, I might be tempted. Jim.
I'd do it in a second if they weren't there. Let me just say, I mean, you drive in the the bus lane, so obviously you do this.
Only when there are no
Stephanie
buses.
Pollock, who was the former Secretary of Transportation under Baker, is quoted in some story we read where she's talking about a closed Twitter group, as she calls it, where people alert, sort of a Waysian kind of thing. They alerted people, there's no cop at the end of the HOV, take it now kind of thing. So I've never seen no cop at the other end. But
I
we
never
want to
have
know
either.
what your HOV behavior would be, and if you've ever been tempted or actually done the unthinkable and done the HOV thing. Here is a brilliant clip from Curb Your Enthusiasm, HBO, where a sex worker walks up to Larry David's car. Just listen.
Here's the thing. I used to see the traffic. The only thing moving is the carpool lane. I'm not going to use the carpool lane by myself because I don't want to. Hey, Daddy, you want a date with Mama? Get in the car. What you into today? See, actually, I'm not really interested in any sex per se. You just want me to sit in the car? Just sit in the car. That's all you have to do.
I think that's very funny. 877-301-8970. By the way, everybody has to tell the truth in this. And if you've done the HOV lane when it's only been you, tell the call screener we're going to take you out a line because I really want to know how nervous you were when you're driving in the HOV lane for fear that there's a state cop at the end of the thing there.
Yeah, it's very exciting to have your children in the car. When they're in the car seats, you're not sure if you're going to get pulled over because they're in the car seats generally in the back.
Yeah, but you can point to them.
You can point to them, that's right, if the trooper comes by. The same trooper apparently caught one person with a head with a hat on and sunglasses.
An inflatable head?
No, it was just, I guess it was a mannequin head
Oh.
on top of a coat. And there was, I lost my story.
Why doesn't that count?
It's not
Have to be
it has
human?
To be a human being, Jim.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can't, the dog is not going to work. Or
Is that
another
it? Can you
animal.
put that up again? I didn't see that. That's good enough for
Yeah,
me.
isn't that pretty good?
I think that's
well,
fine.
that person got nailed. And then the same trooper caught somebody else. I think the person had a dog.
A dog?
Or maybe it was an inflatable doll. That's another one. There were a lot of inflatable dolls that you see like zipping down. But you know, people, the traffic's bad and they're late for work and they do what they have to do. But I've never gone by there and not seen a state trooper. Maybe at 2:00 in the morning, but there's no traffic at 2:00
Excellent point, Marjorie. Let's take some calls. Jane and Millis, welcome to the show. You're first. Hi.
Hi, Jim and Marjorie.
Hey.
First of all, quick HOV story. I had to take it for my very first time a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I had a car full, so I felt no guilt, but I was overwhelmingly, I could not believe it. It's like I wanted to pass to Disney World because they were getting in so quickly.
Yeah.
So that was great. So that was my positive experience. The other thing is I wanted to make a donation, but tell you specifically why.
Oh, good.
Jim, why? You interviewed my daughter a while back. She started with some other young women the Skate Hads program.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
She's doing great. And this week, I'm proud to say, she is earning her master's degree in severe special needs from Bridgewater State.
Oh.
And I'm making a $100 donation in her honor.
Oh, Jane.
Jane, you are a kind
you.
soul, and that is a wonderful story.
Congratulations.
Congratulate her for us.
Yeah.
That is totally, totally great. Thank you, Jane, for the
Yeah,
call.
we really appreciate that, Jane.
877-301-8970. By the way, a friend of mine who shall remain unnamed sent me a photograph just this minute of the most life-looking, real inflatable I've ever seen in my life. You would know, it was sent to me.
I know.
You would not,
I thought maybe it got sent to me, too.
No. You would not know if you didn't know, so to speak.
Okay.
Let's go to Jane in Concord. Hi. How about, wait a second, Jane, how about EVs? We want to encourage environmentally friendly things. How about EVs with one person in them being allowed to drive in the HOV lane?
I could live with that.
You could?
I could live with that. When you go to the Boston,
so could
when
I.
you go to the Boston Common Garage, you know there's special spots for EVs
Don't
and
I know
hybrids.
it? Don't I know
and
it?
So many times I've gotten a great parking spot because I have a hybrid. I don't have an EV,
Yeah.
but I have a hybrid, and it's pretty cool.
Jane in Concord, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, guys. I have never driven in the HOV lane.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
And I'm not a big fan of EVs, I'm sorry to say. I don't think that they're the answer. They're still cars, and they still cause congestion, so I don't think it's fair.
Wait, so you don't have any car at all?
No, I do, but I have much older cars that still run, so
Okay.
no incentive to change at this point.
Okay,
But so I want to comment about the Texas law.
please.
Does that new law about women getting the privilege of riding the HOV lane mean that if they're going in an airplane or a train or a bus, they have to buy 2 tickets?
It's an excellent question. We'll call Governor Abbott right after the show, Jane.
I think it
and we'll
has
let
to
you know.
do with their thing that life begins at conception.
Of course, obviously it does.
So there you are. It's a personhood kind of thing. But listen to
Jane,
this.
thanks for the call.
Jane from Hopkins says, I've never driven in the HOV lane anywhere ever without the right number of people in the car. But if I ever go to Texas, I'll be there for sure. I may not be pregnant, but I have lots of eggs, and that should count.
That's pretty good.
And then listen to this one. This other woman says, I was 9 months pregnant and used the HOV lane due to bad cramps. $150 ticket.
$150?
Isn't that terrible? Yeah.
By the way, Amy texts, how many worms do I need in my brain before I can drive in the HOV lane? That's an interesting question. I wonder who she's referring to. What's our number? 877-301-8970 is the number.
EVs are not environmentally friendly. Please stop spreading that information.
Let's not do this.
That's they are. I mean, they got to get the.
They're not perfect.
They're
they
not
are
perfect,
better
but they're a lot
than
better
gas-driven
than gas.
cars.
That's the same thing. It's all the time. It's like people say, oh, where do you get the electricity from? Well, the problem is the fossil fuels, but we hope to get there with the electricity. Okay, let's go to Miles in Cambridge. Hi, Miles.
Hello, Miles.
Hello, Jim and Marjorie.
Hello.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I can neither confirm nor deny that I am calling from the parking lot known as Starro Drive.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I just wanted to say, HOV lanes, they don't really reduce congestion, do they? I mean, they're just sort of a bandage on the festering wound that is car dependency.
That's right.
I can say this, as someone who's been stuck in traffic a lot. But I've used them before. So.
Before you go away, I am totally mortified that I never thought of this, which is maybe where you're going, is let's assume 93 South, I don't know, is it 3 lanes wide? If it was, so. I understand the reason for HOV is so more people ride in a car, so there are fewer cars. But if there were 4 lanes instead of 3 with no HOV lane, wouldn't there be a hell of a lot less congestion? Isn't that fairly obvious?
I don't think so.
Why?
Okay, imagine downtown Boston is like a sippy cup you're trying to fill up with water.
Yeah.
And you want to get more water in there quicker. Right? So is the idea to then pour an entire 10-gallon water cooler in all at the same time? I mean, those cars have to go somewhere. And so the more cars you try to fit in quicker, the worse the gridlock is going to be downtown.
Miles, you're a smart guy. Thanks for calling. Remember when Barry Bluestone was on the show from the Dukakis Center at Northeastern and said, this is a true story, if the growth in, sounds oxymoronic, if how slow you go on 93 continues on the same trajectory it already is, by I think it was 2030, how fast will you be going?
0.
0 miles an hour.
You're just going to be sitting
That's
there.
what he said. Yeah, that was pretty great.
Yeah, you're going to be
take a
sitting
break.
there. Okay, we have to take a break. We're talking about the HOV lane, whether you've ever been an HOV scufflaw snuck in there by yourself with a dog in the seat, with a mannequin in the seat, with a blown-up doll in the seat to make it look like you got somebody else with you. What do you think of the HOV lane? You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Boston Public Radio. Live local conversations every day brought to you by listener support. Now it's your turn to keep the conversation going with an ongoing contribution in any amount. Please sign up as a sustaining member during our spring membership drive. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. We're really getting some really nice
Read Lucy.
listening.
Read the first one.
Lucy from Walpole says, I've been listening for years, and this past year I cut my cable, and you guys are the only news I listen to anymore. If we lose Boston Public Radio or any of the other NPR programs, we would be in a very dark place. Thank you for what you do every day. Here's Michelle from Revere. I'm not always sure how to stand up to the Trump administration on an individual level, but I will do my part not to let them take away public broadcasting. It has been educating me my whole life. There's no better time than now when I can even learn with Babel. Thanks, Jim and Marjorie, and the Culture Show for my daily dose of reality and culture. We're on the radio side of this, but obviously the stuff on the television side is, Frontline won an Academy Award for 20 Days in Mariupol, looking at what happened when the Russians first invaded Ukraine and the horror of those first few days. You've got Nova. We've got, Things Great and Small. What's that show called? Something's Great and Small, whatever it is.
All Creatures Great and Small.
Yeah, it's great about the vets.
Whatever it is.
The midwife show. We got great stuff on there. So it's not just us on the radio, it's TV too. 897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
And the Babel thing, by the way, all the comments are great. I'm sorry we can't read them all because there are tons of them, which speaks to your insane generosity, and it means everything to us. It really lifts our spirits and the spirits of all of our colleagues. And again, for $10 a month today, only till 7 o'clock, you get the Babel language learning app. 14 languages, which is virtually every language you can possibly imagine you'd want to learn, I think. And I've heard great things about Babel. Have you, by the way?
Yes, I did it. Yeah.
Oh,
I did
well,
it.
You didn't learn anything.
I did.
What did you learn?
Well, you have to keep practicing it. I learned a
little. Oué la toilette, is that what you said before?
Yeah, oué la toilette.
I don't think you need Babel for that, do you?
Well, I did. I've forgotten all my French.
888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. You want to read the first two texts?
Yeah, these are pretty clever.
Pretty good, yeah.
Barbara from Newton says, does a dead bear in the trunk count? That, of course, would be reference to RFK Jr., who took a dead bear and deposited it in the middle of Central Park.
He did.
And another texter says, does a dead whale head on the roof count? That is also a reference to RFK Jr. Now, there's some dispute about whether he put a whale head on the roof or not. His daughter said he did, or his sister said he did.
His daughter.
But it was dripping
Kiki,
down into Kiki Kennedy, dripping down into the car. It's really gross. But anyway,
and we got some brainworm texts also, so we got a lot of RFK
that does not count. Says another texter, HOV lane is a short-lived happiness until you need to get out of it. Nobody is letting you in. That's a very good point, too.
What's that?
That to try to merge back into traffic coming out of the HOV lane, people are hostile towards you, Jim.
Well, wouldn't you be?
Absolutely.
I am hostile. Do you let people back in? You sort of have to decide, and I know this is very difficult, did they make a mistake being in the wrong lane, or did they choose to be in the wrong lane so they could fly ahead and then expect you to forgive them and allow them in?
That's one of my excuses. You know, when you come down the Mass Pike and then you kind of almost do a U-turn to get onto 93 South?
Yes.
You know, you could accidentally get in the HOV lane there. And I thought if I ever were to do that, I would say, I didn't mean to do it, officer. It was an accident. And you could be legitimately saying that, because unless you get in the right lane, right, you're in the HOV lane.
Now, this isn't our topic.
It sneaks up on you.
How satisfying is it when you have somebody trying to sneak in who you think should not be allowed to, and you have positioned yourself so you're 1 inch from the bumper in the car in front of you, so a snail could not get in, much less another car. How satisfying is that?
Anonymous texter says, "Oué la dicky."
Okay, oué means where is for the three people who don't speak.
Where is the dicky, Jim?
French. What?
One of these days you're going to come
One of our
with your
listeners
dickies.
made me. You know, maybe I haven't worn it. I really have to wear it. I do. It's
God.
beautiful.
Let us know what day you're wearing
it.
it.
Well, you come most days, so I don't think I have to let you know at all.
I don't want to be off.
For work.
I don't want to be off.
What do you think about Keith Lockhart wanting to be a
I think he'd be great.
fill-in co-host?
I think
he's really smart in addition to everything else.
Yeah, he's very smart.
Okay, you know what happened?
What?
Show's over.
Oh, gosh. Just sneaks up on me on days of pledge.
It's incredible.
Okay, well, thank you very much for all you cheaters out there in the HOV lane. I can relate to that. Okay, we are done, as Jim just said, and thanks for listening. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast. You can check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow, we're back here at the Boston Public Library. GBH's Jared Bowen, Harvard National Security expert Juliette Kayyem, our food policy man, Corby Kummer, and Cy Montgomery, who was attacked by a tick.
I didn't know that until this morning.
About that. Yeah. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, our engineer, John the Claw Parker, our executive producer, Jane Bologna. Special thanks to our BPL staff, Maddie Guy, Patrick Lally, Juan Jose Cadena. Thanks to our host at the Newsfeed Cafe and across the street at the Lennox Hotel. The Culture Show with Jared Bowen starts immediately after us on 89.7 GBH. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Before we go, some people are texting saying they missed Josh Kraft. It was his first appearance with us. We hope there are many more before the September runoff. Josh was with us at noon. If you go to our podcast, you will get to hear what Josh Kraft had to say about a whole host of issues. So
That's
check
right.
that out.
Thank you, Jim.
And the mayor is here the 28th. Is that right? 28th. Okay. Oh, what am I supposed to do? Oh, Jim Browdy.
Yep. You're Jim Browdy.
I am.
You are. I'm Marjorie Egan.
You are.
I am.
Okay.
Thank you very much for tuning in
Thank you.
today. Hope you can tune in tomorrow
Bye.
and enjoy this lovely day.
See ya.
This is the GBH Spring Membership Drive, and it ends tomorrow. Please help pay for your future GBH listening by making your individual contribution. You can become a sustaining member, or you can make a one-time gift at gbhnews.org, or you can give us a call, 888-897-9424. I'm Zach Finn, and I'm here with Melissa Jones.
Right now, we're looking to receive 15 contributions in the next 8 minutes or so. We need the financial support of everyone who relies on GBH to make this membership drive a success. Please give right now at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And right now, you can support GBH and receive a 1-year ad-free subscription to the language learning app Babel. It is a limited offer just for today, and we'll even email you a code and instructions on how to redeem it online. It's actually super easy to do. So sign up as a sustaining member at $10 a month, or give $120 all at once. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Learn at a pace that suits your lifestyle. You can take 10, 15, 30 minutes, or up to an hour a day when you want to learn one of the 14 languages Babel has to offer. You can use it anytime, anywhere, on any device. And like Zach said, the best part, I think, it's ad-free. So no pesky interruptions or ads. That's all yours for just a $10 a month sustaining contribution before 7 o'clock tonight at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Please become a new sustaining member to GBH right now. It really doesn't take much to make a huge, huge difference. Where else can you invest $5 per month and get hours and hours of valuable information, interesting discussion, and intelligent entertainment? Here's the short answer. It's nowhere. It's just $5 a month for all your listening. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Zach was hitting the nail on the head with becoming a sustainer. I'm a sustainer in GBH, and I love being a sustainer because I don't have to worry about my support being current, that it's happening. When I tune into GBH or turn on GBH, I know that I'm supporting because I've made a gift in the amount that I chose, and it comes out of the account that I chose it from, and it happens automatically. I never should think about it. It's so amazing. It's wonderful. Don't take my word for it, though. Join me in being a sustainer right now at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
All right. Now, we are just down to 11 more people to give in the next 6 minutes, and that's what we need to stay on track, right? We're looking for 11 contributions in the next 6 minutes, and, you know, this is so important because by giving now, you help do a whole bunch of things. You help ensure quality journalism prevails over misinformation, and truly what is more important than that? Be one of those 11 in these next 6 minutes. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
If you have weekly, if not daily, visits with Jim and Marjorie, then this membership drive is about you. You count on Boston Public Radio to keep you ahead of the news while giving you that great dose of humor at the same time. There's nothing else like it on the air, and it stays that way with your support. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
All right, and it is your last chance to support your BPR listening and get in on this fantastic offer with Babel. Again, support GBH, $10 a month. You get a 1-year ad-free subscription to Babel, the language learning app. Now, you can really do whatever you want here. You can study one language, or you can study multiple languages. The subscription provides access to all 14 languages that Babel has to offer. Again, $10 a month for that 12-month subscription to Babel. 888-897-9424, online at gbhnews.org.
We are making great progress on this goal. Thank you to those of you who have called or gone online to give. We're down to 8 to go in just the next 5 minutes. We can do that with your help right now. And when you give, you're ensuring the future of Boston Public Radio and making sure that we can continue to serve you with all the great stuff you get here on GBH whenever you tune in. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And a big time thank you to send out. Big GBH thank you to Stephen out in Fiskdale, who says, my number one go-to news source, and the current push to defund makes this more important than ever. I mean, Stephen, talk about hitting the nail on the head. That is exactly right. Now, if you feel the same as Stephen, or even if you just get value in the news and entertainment that you're hearing, step up. Be like Stephen, show your support. Get that call started now. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
And remember, when you give $10 a month right now, we will thank you with a 1-year ad-free subscription to Babel. You can study one language, multiple languages. There are up to 14 to choose from. And not only do you get Babel when you give right now, but you'll also receive access to all of your favorite PBS shows because you will have access to PBS Passport, which is our great members-only streaming service, access to thousands of hours of programming, many shows that don't even get broadcast. They're only streamed there, so you can actually find new shows. So much to learn here on GBH through Babel, through Passport, and it's all because of your support. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
All right, we're making some great headway here. We're down to just 4 more contributions to go in the next 3 minutes. I know we can do it. We want to wrap this hour up strong. And, trusted news, it's more crucial than ever, right? And NPR and GBH truly do stand as beacons of truth and reliability. And to continue providing accurate and unbiased news, we need that financial support. We're looking for 4 more contributions in the next 3 minutes. 888-897-9424. Online, look for that donate button, gbhnews.org.
The news has been complicated and really intense, and it's just going to kind of stay that way. And you will look to GBH even more to help keep you informed, in the know, up to date, up to speed, up to the moment. It's the next to last day of our spring membership drive. If you've been meaning to give but you haven't had a chance, please do that right now. Give before 7 o'clock and get the Babel subscription too. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And $10 a month, that's what it takes to get in on the 1-year ad-free subscription to the language learning app Babel. You can do 14 languages all at once. You could do one language. I think one language may be a little bit easier to start, but hey, you get the choice. We all love choices. Again, sign up as a sustaining member, $10 a month. Ask for that 12-month subscription to Babel online at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
It takes just a couple of minutes to give right now. We just need your name and your contact information, which of course we keep private. You can sign up as a sustaining member with a recurring monthly payment, or you can make a gift all at once right now. We're asking you, though, to take that moment. Don't let this moment pass you by and forget about it. Let's do it right now by going to gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And hey, we're looking for 2 more contributions to wrap up strong this hour. Be one of those 2 people. Step up, show that support right now. And again, that goal down to 2. And thank you so much for stepping up over this hour. It's so very important to hit these goals, and the participation so great. 2 more contributions to go. Get that call started. 888-897-9424. gbhnews.org.